Welcome in to another episode of Building the Pride, where I'm on the left-hand side of your screen. All it means is I got to the lobby first. It's a Victory Tuesday here on the show, and we have been able to say that for almost 3 consecutive months.
11 straight weeks.
11 straight, Mike. As I am, of course, joined by my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Drew. It's always great after a Victory Tuesday. And my son Danny and I actually got to go to the game.
Yeah,
that was
must have been
that was
fun.
my first game. That was his first Lions game, and it was. I mean, there's no bad seat in Ford Field, but if there was, we were in it. We were upper deck, top row, back literally against the wall, end zone. So we watched the game-winning field goal come right toward us. But it was a long ways from the field, but it was louder than hell, and the atmosphere was just electric. So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I believe that this fan base, and I don't know how anyone can argue against it this year. This is the best fan base in the NFL. This is the most passionate, dedicated fan base in the NFL. And they travel well, they're loud, they feel like they're a part of the team. It's a real advantage.
And we've been a passionate fan base for a lot of like as long as I can remember, and I'm old, right? We've been a very passionate. We've not been able to be passionate about wins. We were passionate about our team even when we sucked, and now we just get to be even louder because we're winning. So I love it. It's been and we travel well. I've heard a lot of great things. I've seen a lot of blue and in the field or in the stands when we're traveling. So it's fun being a Lions fan right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's on the docket for today, Mike?
Well, we usually start with the news and notes around the NFL, but there's not a lot going on. No like crazy major injuries that we need to report. No firings that we need to report that we haven't already done. And the one just absurdly amazing game we'll get to when we talked about the Buffalo Bills Week 15 preview later on in the show. So I think we just skip the news and notes, just go right straight to Lions. Start talking about the game.
That's awesome. Let's do it. So they won.
Truth.
I was super concerned about this game going in. I will say now, after this game, I am now basically back to the same level of confidence I was before all of the injuries. I mean, like Aiden Hutchinson is one thing. That was 8 games ago or whatever. But the injuries to Anzalone, Rodriguez, Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who else is hurt right now? Mike, all the defensive linemen.
Decker.
Decker
just on the
missed this
defensive
game.
side. Yep.
You know, like I was quite concerned. Like I've always been in my heart. I've always been talent wins out in these matchups. Like they're all big, they're all fast. So it comes down to talent. And that's just not what's happening right now. Like this is about coaching and like practice and information and being prepared and knowing what you're there to do and then going out and executing it. And I didn't think that guys like Zeke Turner and Quan Alexander and Jamal Adams and Miles Adams and Jonah Williams, and all, I mean, we could go on.
Who are these guys?
Like all of these people played.
Yeah. And they weren't even on our team 6 weeks ago.
Right? But, here's maybe, I mean, so I left you a voicemail last night and because I think that we should do a different type of show probably after the season is over to kind of highlight some things about the Lions. And what I want to do, and the reason it's applicable to this game, is that JT O'Sullivan, who has a YouTube channel called the QB School, did a Week 14 Jared Goff analysis. And I watched it, and I thought, boy, this is highlighting stuff in a way that I don't normally get, like a perspective that I don't normally get to understand the Lions, and especially Jared Goff. And I want to watch that video with you on air and talk about it while we watch it, because I think that would be fun. And it's for this game against the Packers.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
It's very good. One of the things I took from that video and watching the game is that there's absolutely no way that Tim Patrick is not on this team next year. Zero chance.
He was so good.
So not only did he have like 6 catches or something for 2 touchdowns, but on the 3rd play of the game, and this is in the video that I just referenced, it is kind of a Ben Johnson appreciation play, in my opinion. He is lined up on the outside, Tim Patrick. And the route that he runs, typically, according to JT O'Sullivan, gets run where you try and gain inside leverage on the cornerback so that you then have the room to create space to make the catch on the route. But Tim Patrick has been told to run to get outside leverage, so he's between the corner and the sideline. Now, what this does is, because they have stacked St. Brown, or St. Brown is going to be running into the space that Tim Patrick is leaving, the cornerback guarding St. Brown has to make a choice between going under, or going over Tim Patrick in order to get back to St. Brown. And he chooses to go over Tim Patrick, creating space, and Goff hits him for like a little 3-yard out route, pick up a first down, move the sticks. And like, all I ever see when I watch the game is they completed a pass for 4 yards, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't get a chance on that play to appreciate the genius that is Ben Johnson, you know? And this team picked up Tim Patrick for mere tuppence, you know, like to use a British term from my childhood, you know, like basically nothing. They got him for basically nothing. And he has been not only an excellent blocker in the run game for the Lions, but he has added layers in a way that I think like a casual fan like me doesn't even understand.
He's only $820,000 this year, less than $1 million.
That's just crazy.
We've already gotten our money's worth.
So I was talking to Matt from Roar of the Lions UK, and we were talking about Tim Patrick, and I was trying to get some idea of like what the Lions might offer him in the, you know, when the season is over. His previous contract that he signed with the Broncos was 3 years, $30 million, so 10 a year. But then since then, he has had a knee injury and an Achilles injury. And even if he's played well for the Lions, so like, I was like, so Matt, what do you think the Lions are going to offer him? You know, and Matt thought something like 1 year, $4 million would be decent for Timmy P. And, you know, but I could see, like, depending on how valuable they think he is, you know, 2 years, 10, 3 years, 18, something. I don't know.
Matt's pretty close to what Over the Cap shows. Over the Cap estimates his 2024 valuation at $3.4 million, basically.
Where are you seeing that?
The big highlighted thing in the middle.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, if you told me that we could re-sign Tim Patrick for less than $5 million, I would be like, how many times can I write this check?
Yeah.
You know, this guy is, it's not. I mean, like I just said a minute ago, like I think that talent wins out, but like this guy is such a good fit,
Yeah.
you know, and like
Culture fit and just
yeah,
role fit too, right? Like
oh,
I remember, so congratulations to Tim Patrick. This was his first touchdown. He got two of them, and he got one of the game balls. His first touchdown in over 1,000 days.
mhm.
There's like 1,084 days or something in that area since his last touchdown. So congrats to Tim Patrick. But I actually called I think it was the first one. I don't remember if it was the first one or the second one. The whole game kind of like meshes in my brain right now because it was so crazy in the stadium. But like it was a short. We were on like the 4 yard line, 6 yard line. We were right deep, and I'm like, this one's going to Tim Patrick because he's our contested catch guy. And I just had a feeling like that's where they're going to go. We went there. He catches it. We go, score a touchdown. But we didn't have that. Like JMO's our guy that could just outrun everybody, and he can underneath routes and go take yards after the catch. He can take the fly routes. You got Amon Ra that's doing your chain moving, your workhorse stuff. But neither of those guys are contested catch guys. And we needed one of those for those, inside the 10-yard line types of things, and some of the chain moving types of things that Amon Ra can do. But like, hey, if they're going to double him, then we're screwed. Like, then what do we do, right? So Patrick fits perfectly for what we need, and he's been killing it. I've been super impressed with him so far.
Yes. Let me see. I remember one of our opponents here recently, like in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it might have been the Texans, actually doubled St. Brown. And I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna look at to see if I can get his like week by week stats from PFF here, but there
For
we go.
St. Brown?
Yeah, I got it. So was it?
Maybe
I
Tennessee.
think it
He only
was
had a 60.
Indianapolis, actually.
Oh, Indy.
So, but they doubled him, and then JMO had it was like the first time that JMO had more targets than St. Brown in a given week.
Oh, gotcha.
And I do think, oh, there you got it. I do think it was the Indy game, and he still has, I mean, he's just great. I mean, like, he's just a great wide receiver, but I think the ability of Tim Patrick to be, so I know I'm rambling here. The thing that I keep hearing from like PFF, from CBS, from not ESPN, because I won't watch them, but like when I listen to NFL media talk about the Lions, the thing that I keep hearing from them is, independently of one another, it's like, this team can beat you in so many ways. Like, it is not possible to match up well with the Detroit Lions. Like, I have heard for years that the NFL is a match-up, is like a game of like who gets the best matchup. Can I match my best guy up on your worst guy? Can I get Aiden Hutchinson on like a backup right tackle? That kind of thing. Like, there's the advantage. Tom Brady was good at that, right? Like, he wanted to get his guy into the spot where he knew where he was going to be effective.
Yep. Find that mismatch.
Right. The thing about the Lions is they can do that individually, but their offense is constructed in a way to basically say, if you are going to take away X, we will just do Y.
Right. Or
and
Z.
Right. And then if you demonstrate an ability to deal with Y, we'll roll to Z.
Yep.
And then, okay, now we're going to go back to X, and like you then now cannot ever stop adjusting, which means that the offense gets to stay in a very aggressive, deterministic game plan that forces the defense, which the defense will always be reactive to the offense, no matter what. But right. Like, the way that Detroit's offense is set up is to basically force that defense to be reactive and to basically not have a plan on how to do that. And it is just this, and like, we didn't know what JMO would be coming into the year. We hoped, like picking up Tim Patrick was like, oh, I wonder if he will mesh or gel with the offense. How long is that going to take? Like, oh, Laporta doesn't seem to be having as good of a year this year. I wonder why that is. None of this stuff has mattered.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point though, like the whole like XYZ, if you're going to take away the short to intermediate routes, your where Sam Laporta cleans up and where Amon-Ra cleans up quite a bit, then we've got some deep action with JMO as a possibility. We're not going to go to it a lot, but that's an option. But we've also got the run game, both as a actual run game, then also as a a backfield dump type of thing. So you have to pick like two different things out of our three-headed giant of like what we can do, and you have to hope that you're gonna be okay and hit us on one of those things. And even then, the guys that we have in those positions, like if you're like, oh, I'm gonna stuff the run. Okay, we call it. We happen to call a run play. You picked right, but it's still David Montgomery, and he's still going to squirt free, break a tackle, fall forward 2 yards. Like even when you pick right, half the time we still get a positive play out of it. So it is a really, really strong offense. Very fun to watch. It's not like super flashy, right? It's not the 40-yard bombs every time with these huge big play capabilities. That's not us. But we are just that slow trod right down the field that you just can't stop. And eventually we get to the end zone, and then we score a touchdown and we kick it back off to you, and then you're going to do it to us. Depending on how our defense is playing, which has been pretty stellar. And this past week was a little more of a challenge. We were still hurt, and we still came through against probably a top 3, top 5 NFC team, and we still beat them, even though we were playing our 7th string linebackers, and some of those guys were out. So I was a little nervous about. I'm still a little bit nervous about the Buffalo game.
I am not. We'll talk.
I am a little bit. Yeah, we'll when we get there. But a couple of the guys that you didn't even mention previously when you were talking about other defensive injuries, you didn't mention DJ Reader, you didn't mention Pascal, Amuzurike, Mosley. Like all those guys have been out all season too, or not all season, but like either all for a long time or just at least recently. So
can you explain? Can you explain something to me?
Yeah.
Why would anyone make their Twitter handle be another dude's bulge?
I did not even notice that.
Why?
But,
I have seen this guy on Twitter. I have seen this guy on Twitter. Like he anything to do with the Lions he posts. Like I get it. The fuck is this handle?
I don't understand that.
I would never in my life be like, the thing that I want to represent me as a person on this social media platform is to be known as the shape of another man's nether region. I just cannot understand what the attraction is. And he is not the only guy.
Yeah,
like it is a trend, like to basically be like, oh, I admire this other dude for whatever reason. My handle will be this guy's name, and then the word bulge after it. And I'm like, that only has one contextual meaning. Like, why would you do this? Like, it doesn't matter what that part of him is. Like, just
I straight didn't even know. I was just looking at the content.
I know. Sometimes you gotta look at the handles, I guess, but I don't get it. I don't like it, And so, like, but the words that he put up on the tweet are worth reading.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, I almost want to do the PFF scores now.
All right, yeah, we can do that. Let me pop that back on stage. PFF scores.
So,
Jared Goff.
Here's what I want to do.
Leading our offense.
Here's what I want to do.
Let's do it.
Go back to the tweet.
Go back to the tweet.
We're going to take it one guy at a time. Taylor Decker. Go back to the grades. Who replaced Taylor Decker?
Oh.
Dan Skipper.
Skipper, 13th, a 58.4.
Right. But let's look at his pass blocking grade.
74.2.
I believe that he did not allow a pressure in this game, if I'm remembering another tweet from a non-bulge Twitter handle.
One of the non-bulgers.
One of the few non-bulge Twitter handles left on NFL Twitter. He played very well. And he was lined up against Rashawn Gary from the Packers most of the game, because that's where I would put Rashawn Gary if I was the Packers, would be on the backup left tackle and not the all-world right tackle. So he played well. Let's go back to the tweet. There's Hatters. What's up, buddy? Missed you.
Yeah, buddy.
DJ Reader, back to the grades. Who'd he get replaced with? Broderick Martin. Let's take a look at Broderick Martin when you got to go to the defense.
So
we'll do all of them. Let's just stick with me.
I'm just going to note that, like, on the defensive line, Broderick Martin in his 5th game, I believe, was our most veteran player on our defensive line.
That's gross.
Yeah.
He's down. He's like 18 or 19.
Yep, 19.
Yeah, so there he is. So, didn't have a great game.
He tackled well.
He's basically a rookie, you know?
Yeah.
Tackled well, pass rush, okay. Like, he's not there. Like, he and DJ Reader's job is not one that I think equates well to either statistics or grading. Like, their job is basically like, stand there, don't move.
Don't let them get through.
Don't let them move, you know? Like, you know, like, it's a very, nose tackle is a very unglamorous position, right?
Yeah.
But he tackled well, and, you know, he played 23 snaps, which is half of the snaps that the defense was out there for. Hey, what's up, A6? Josh Paschal. So who replaced Josh Paschal? It's Al-Quadin Muhammad. 37
he's been
snaps.
pretty solid.
He's been real good.
He's not bad. Yeah, I mean, this was one of his down games.
Yeah.
This was one of his down games, but even 63.6 is like, meh, I mean, okay.
And I'll bet that score would have been way up, but he had like a horrendous missed tackle where Josh Jacobs just like ran through him and like spun him around, you know? And so I was like, oh, Al-Quadin, you know, but he is not a big dude, I don't believe. I think he's something like 255 or 260. It's bigger than Josh Jacobs, though. So he plays violent physical football. Levi and Wuzurike. So Onwuzurike is McNeil's backup. McNeil left the game twice, I think, against the Packers. Yep. So he only played 17 snaps.
Yeah.
Right. So they were down to their, and Mekhi Wingo is also out. So that is all three technique defensive tackles.
Yeah.
So those, your pass rushing defensive tackles, all of them that were on the start of the season, are not in for this game. So who replaces him? Miles Adams, right? Number 3rd on defense with a 76. Played well. Good job, kid. You know, we signed you last week. Who else is on here? Like Jonah Williams got some run. He played 25 snaps. Not bad. Pretty good pass rush. You know,
Patrick
like
O'Connor.
Patrick O'Connor. You know what? His grade, I think he's the bottom player.
Yeah, he is.
But I watched him, like, his get off on this game. He flat beats Green Bay center Josh Myers on like 2 plays, where he was basically like, Josh Myers snapped the ball and then had to turn 90 degrees to like get his hands on Pat O'Connor because O'Connor was already by him. Like, this, I mean, I am a PFF stat believer. We all know this. I'm not going to debate it. But, like, I don't understand all of them, and I thought that Pat O'Connor played way better than this grade.
Yeah.
So I was pretty happy with the way Pat O'Connor played. I am getting a text message. One moment. Okay. Not important.
Yeah.
Emmanuel Mosley, which we don't have to talk about because I don't know that he's ever played for the Lions.
That is fair. But yeah, I mean, Ezekiel Turner played, I mean, a 91 grade is really good. Campbell killing it. Where is he at in terms of, look at this. We got a lot of green, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games over a 70.
So he needs to have 1 or 2 more games like this, and I'll hit my bet
Yeah, well,
on
your
him.
bet was he was gonna be a top 10?
No, my bet was he would have an 80 PFF, an
Oh, an
overall
80.
PFF grade of 80 for this season.
Yep, he's real close right now, 79.3.
You know, and we
His
do have,
coverage grade is the important thing. Like that's
yes,
jumped up a lot.
yes.
So,
I mean, go
awesome.
down to his season grades for last year. You
Yeah,
can see 35.
yeah,
He's
horrendous.
basically twice as good at it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, so guys like Miles Adams, who kind of came out of the blue for us. Jonah Williams hasn't played a lot of snaps recently. Quan Alexander, even like guys like Ben Neiman, like he was not expected to do any snaps this year, and he's been able to get in there, make some meaningful snaps. I mean, in this case, it was just one this past game, but like he's getting in there. I think he played some last week too. Zarius Smith, I'm a little surprised that he was only at 56 because I thought he played really strong.
I agree.
Nowaski's got a bunch of snaps there. David Long had, a handful of snaps.
I mean, they
next
list,
man up, right?
Yeah, they list Jamal Adams as a strong safety, but he is playing weak side linebacker. He is playing the same role that Rodrigo played when he is in there, and they are using him to pass rush. Like,
Yeah.
Jamal Adams basically hasn't played strong safety since he was a New York Jet. So like that's 4 years ago. Like he is effectively, well, I mean, it would be a traditional quote unquote in the box safety, but he is basically a linebacker, and he is a decent rushing linebacker, and they sent him on blitzes multiple times out of the slot and right off the line. So I expect that he will be, as long as he's on the team and they don't cut him, he'll be a situational pass rusher from like the linebacking area of the field.
Yeah.
So, but I am
the
glad
big surprise to me was Brian Branch. Not his best game.
Well,
thankfully Kirby on the other side of the field or whatever stepped up, played really, really strong. But I was a little surprised at Branch.
Well, he did have a defensive pass interference call, and the thing where Brian Branch seems to live or die is whether or not he tackles well.
Yeah,
and he did not tackle well in this game. He didn't wrap up. He there was a one play where he tried to, I think it was, he just tried to crash into Christian Watkins. And Christian Watkins is like 6'4", 225 pounds. Like, he is enormous.
Yeah.
And like Brian Branch isn't little, but he's not 6'4", 220. And he just crashes into him. And Watkins is able to hold on to the ball this time. And then he managed to like pick up a first down on the catch because he was able to like land and then get his momentum to move forward. Where if Branch had simply gone in and wrapped up, he might have stopped him in his tracks. So,
right.
Well, he wasn't. I mean, like A6, I know he might be on the practice squad and not the 53-man roster, but like they're going to elevate him. To be honest, all of these guys that they sign can basically be on the practice squad and elevated for game day because you get I believe you get 4 elevations per person before they have to be on the roster, signed to the roster. So basically the Lions at this point, well, I guess any team in the NFL in the last 4 games basically expand their rosters to like include their practice squads, because if you have guys on your practice squads with no elevations, you get them.
Right.
So
whenever you want.
Really good for the Lions right now because they got a lot of guys hurt.
Well, they still have to find a spot in the 48 starters, though, right?
Yeah, you have to. I don't believe your roster. You have to have 53 on game day.
Yeah,
right. I think
you only dress like 48, though, right? You have 53 on your roster. I thought you only. Well, maybe I could be wrong. It's happened before.
No. Anyways,
probably not.
I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Figuring out how the
practice
squad works seems like an off-season offseason
Yeah,
thing, but
yeah,
A6 is probably right.
yeah.
So I was very happy with the way this defense played. They gave up 31 points, but I was very happy with the way they played. And I saw, I don't know, I don't put too much stock in like power rankings, but I was looking at one set of power rankings, and I think it was either from PFF or The Athletic today, and their top 5 was Detroit, Philly, Chiefs, Minnesota, Green Bay. So the NFC North, I think it was The Athletic. The Athletic ranked 3 teams in the NFC North in the top 5 teams in the NFL. So, like, let's just say that's true for just a second.
Yeah.
Let's just say that Green Bay is the worst of the 5. This defense went out and stood toe to toe with a top 5 team in the NFL. Like, great. And you're telling me that they're going to be in practice and be coached and all that stuff weekend. We have a 10-day rest between the Packers game and when they play Buffalo. That's going to help. Like Decker's back. Hopefully Aleem is healed up. Branch relearns how to tackle. You get some depth back or what have you. That's the thing I think will be interesting is as they get players back, how are they going to make space on the roster for these guys? Like, how are we going to keep all of them?
Yeah, and A6 hooking me up with the stats. That was literally what I was looking for. I'm like, I remember seeing a stat where they basically the Lions, the Packers, and the Vikings have really only lost to each other and only had a couple losses outside of the NFC North all season. And A6 came through with the stat. So thanks, buddy. 28-3 is their record against the rest of the NFL. One of those losses was our loss to Tampa Bay, our only loss. And I don't remember who the other ones were, but like, if we're not beating each other up, we are winning. When I say we, I mean like the NFC North, except for the Bears.
It is, well, I mean, like, I don't even really think that stat tells the whole story too, because like in like the last 3 seasons, I think that the Lions are 6-0 against the Vikings, 5-1 against the Packers, and 4-2 against the Bears.
Yeah.
And so it's like, yeah, those 3 losses are what? Like the Lions have one of them, and like we're going to take a look at some of those teams' final 4 games or what have you, but like, have the Packers and Vikings played each other yet? I know the Packers and Bears have played each other once.
I believe they have.
Like we're getting down to the dregs, but like, so for the second straight season, we've swept did we lose the Pack? Yeah, we lost the Packers last year on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, on Thanksgiving.
But we swept them this
3 fumble
year.
game, I believe.
Yeah,
either 3 fumble or 3 pick. I forget which one it was.
By the way, the interception that Goff threw in this game was egregious.
Oh, I was telling A6 this the other day. Like when I was at the game, I was pretty disappointed in Goff's play. I didn't think he was on target. Now, granted, I was a long way from the field, and the screens that were kind of near-ish for replays weren't particularly great. So I even told him, like, man, I could be wrong, but like I thought I saw a lot of like throw behind him, a little bit high and wide, that kind of stuff. And I rewatched the game on Sunday, and I was totally off. Like I thought, other than the egregious, what was he thinking interception, he was on target for. I mean, there was like one that was a little behind a dude, but like outside of that, he was pretty well on target all game. So, pretty impressed with that. Like our offense played really well against a really good team with a pretty good secondary too. So, fun game to watch, but I was a little too far away from the action to really know what I was thinking at the time.
The Vikings.
But I have to ask you though.
All right.
and I'm kind of curious about A6 and Zakwa and Hatters as well, and anybody else that's listening. Um, what were your thoughts about the fourth downs? We went for it on fourth down 5 times, made it on 4 of them, 2 of which were controversial. I don't think the first 3 were particularly controversial, but the one where we went for it on was like early in the fourth quarter, like on our own 21-yard line, 4th and 1, we went for it, didn't make it. I think we were up by 3 at that point. And then, of course, the last one on the last drive, 4th and 1, we could have kicked a field goal to win the game. We chose to go for it and run out the clock and then kick the field goal. So 2 controversial decisions. I'm kind of curious what your thoughts were on at least those 2.
So I would not have gone for either. However,
Okay.
I would almost never go for it in that spot from my own 30. I mean, like, confidence.
That was the one I was not cool with.
Confidence, aggression, all those things are fine. I understand that Dan Campbell is those things. I'm not asking Dan Campbell this year. I'm not asking Dan Campbell to change. That seemed unbelievably aggressive to me. And like, my problem with it was that it was a turnover and they got points off of that turnover.
Yeah.
Okay. I would also have just kicked the field goal under a minute, and given the ball back to the Packers, who I don't believe had timeouts, at the end of the game. Now
they either had 1 or 0. I forget if they had to burn that one right before that or not. But
I believe it was 0. The reasoning behind why Campbell went for it, I understand. And so this is the thing I'm asking myself now. And I want, since it's a copycat league, this is something I'm wondering if other teams are going to emulate, especially next year, is the standard playbook and the analytics, according to Amazon Prime and every analytics site that I pay attention to, said the analytics say you kick the field goal in that spot. Okay. Dan's reasoning was, if we get a first down, we just win the game. That's the way he looked at it was. And if you listen to, like, I think it was Jared Goff who said, we knew we were going for it in that spot anyways. So there was never any discussion there. We didn't have to make a decision in game. We just knew, had to figure out what play we were going to call. So it's 4th and 1. You have that line, and like, I don't know that it was so obvious, but like, it just felt like both of our lines were just beating the Packers up all game. Like, even the backups were beating the Packers O-line off the line, pushing them around, that kind of shit. And like, I just think that when you're the bully in this context of sports, it makes that decision so much easier, because it's just like, we know
on brand, right?
I was talking with one of our guys off the pod here, Michael Lutchies, and we were talking about like what the Lions look for in draft picks, and he was starting to throw some prospects out at me. And so I was looking them up, and I was like, this guy is 30 pounds too light to play on our offensive line. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, well, go look at Glasgow and Zeitler and Sewell and Ragnow. Like, they're Skipper's all 330
like
plus. Yeah. Like, they are enormous. Like, the Lions do not want linemen on that line under 330 pounds. It's just one thing that they all have in common. Like, the Lions believe in bigger, stronger, faster when it comes to offensive line talent. So I think that Dan was just like, my line's going, I mean, like, okay, 10 out of 10 times, you might get 1 or 2. But if it's 1 out of 1 times, I'm betting on my guys to go and get that 1 yard. And he was like, I'm sure that it was like, if they turn it over here, they have 40 seconds. And their kicker's not great. It's not Mason Crosby.
Right.
Like, So I think that he felt comfortable being like, this game can be played for another 3 quarters and we'll win. We're fine. We're fine with taking the risk. And like, he was right in this instance. They got the first down. They then snapped and replaced 4 Bates to get it where he wanted it, and he crushed it. It was like a 33-yard field goal. It's basically an extra point at that stage. So, and then he managed the clock well on that whole sequence and got it down to where they can't lose. And so I'm curious if teams will try and emulate that idea where it's like analytics say this and we're an 89% chance to win, or we can get 1 yard and be 100% to win
it. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
The only thing I'll say about that is that I am now convinced, not only just watching the Lions, but with the rest of the NFL, and this is also the reason why I think the Eagles are our biggest challengers in the NFC, offensive line play and across the rest of the NFL is not good. And the Lions and the Eagles have excellent offensive lines.
Yeah.
And they're using them as weapons. And there's no better example of that than what that fourth down and 1 call was.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I did not like the one where we're super deep in our zone on the 21 or whatever it was. I didn't like it for a couple of reasons. Number one, I thought the risk reward there was not high enough for me to take that risk. So we're up by 3 at that point, right? So if you don't make it, you give up your lead. It's either a tie game at the very least because it's chip shot field goal range, or you lose the lead because they only have 21 yards to go for a touchdown, which is what ended up happening. So I didn't like the at that point to go from all right, you miss it, minimum, it's a tie game. You gave up your lead, and I didn't like that at all. The play call itself, I mean, if you're going to do it, I think that's probably the play call. We just didn't execute, right? So that was the real bummer. And then on the last one, I get why he did it. So my thought process for that sequence was, okay, it's 4th and inches. The odds are we're going to make it. So there's a couple scenarios. Either A, we make it, awesome. We run out the clock, kick the field goal to win it, all's good. And if we miss that field goal, that's all right. Time's over, and then we go into extra innings. B, we miss it. Oh, I know. I mixed up my sports metaphors. I did that on purpose. B, we go for it and miss it, right? If we go for it and miss it, they have 41 seconds or whatever it was to drive down the field. They're probably going to kick a field goal to win the game. That's a real bummer. But it's not like 100%, right? Our defense was tired. They walked through it for most of the second half. The thing is, if we kick it and make it right then, they still have 41 seconds to drive down the field because they're going to be at basically the same spot when we kick off. They're going to get it at the 30, and they're going to have to go to get field goal distance to tie the game. So like either way, I thought the risk of kicking it there and making it and then giving them the opportunity to roll right down the field to just negate what we just did versus if we get those 9 inches, we win the game. I thought the risk reward there was okay. So I think while analytics said to kick the field goal, analytics is based on prior games and prior situations that did not take into consideration the defense being as hurt as they were, as tired as they were, as the Packers rolling through our defense for most of that second half. Like none of that is taken into consideration in that analytics. It's all about what's happened before this game, not during. So that's why I was okay with, all right, I know it says to kick the field goal, but it just doesn't understand the situation. And I thought the situation said we can kick it, and I think we can go for it, and I think we're in a better chance to win at that point. So I definitely I understand why kicking it would make sense, but even Nick Saban's like, you want to end the game on offense if you can, go for it. That's what I would have done. And he's one of the, as much as I don't like him, he's one of the best college football coaches of all time. So if he's good with it, Dan's good with it, and it worked out, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this kind of decision, if you're right, you're a genius, and if you're wrong, people hate you.
Yeah.
And that's just in it, like it is a result and like the result determines how people are going to feel about it. You know, and so long, I mean, he's right a lot. The thing that I keep coming back to about this group now in Detroit, when I say group, I mean Sheila, Brad, and Dan. Like the thing about those people that I keep respecting so much is that they're right so often. Like Sheila's like, I hired these two guys. Great. I should pay myself a bonus every single year that we have a winning record. Like, so like I was thinking about this the other day. Year one of this regime, 3-13-1. Okay, not awesome. Start off year two, you go like 0-8 or 0-7. And people were like, we should fire Campbell, we should fire Brad. Sheila holds the press conference. Trust the process. We believe in what we're doing here. They finished the second half of that season like 8 out of 9 or something like that. And they have a 9.
They were on fire. Yeah.
Right. And then you go next year and we're 12-5. And then this year we have an 11-game winning streak that is not done yet, hopefully. You know, and like I'm thinking about like, is there any better definition of trust the process and like the rewards that you can reap from it other than what the Lions have done in the last 4 seasons?
Right.
You know, it's just crazy.
It's like watching Campbell on the Hard Knocks. And he's like, I promise you guys, if you believe in this, we will get there. He was super passionate about that. I don't know if you remember that. I think they were at Indianapolis's stadium because they were doing, I think it was Indy, where they were doing shared practices before one of the preseason games. And he was just like adamant, like, just trust me. Like, all I care about is getting you guys into the best position to win a game. Trust me. And he was almost in tears, basically begging his team to just trust him. And they did. They bought right in. It was awesome.
So put A6 little comment right there up on the screen. I don't know what Chris Spielman does on this for this team. I don't know what he does. I don't know what his job is. So I'm not going to talk about him in a way where I know what his impact for this team was. I know he's an employee of the team. Great. He's helping. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I know what Sheila's job is and Brad and Dan's. And so like until I know for certain what Chris Spielman does for this team, I'm not going to talk about
leadership and consulting. He's helping to establish the culture. He's consulting, I think, with probably Brad and Sheila and Dan on player acquisitions and strategies, you know, like overarching strategies, not like your day-to-day game stuff, but more on an organizational type of thing. That would be my guess, but I honestly don't know. So, like,
I love that he's a Lions great, right? He's on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit Lions, right? I would assume. And he's Sheila's personal football assistant. So, like, as far as I am concerned, that means that he translates shit for her, like, as to what's going on with the team, which is wonderful. And I'm glad he's there and I'm glad it's him. Yeah. But, like, ultimately what it comes down to for me is that I know that Sheila hired Brad and Dan and has been an absolute fucking beast about everything. Like, you know what I love the most about Sheila is that she's in the draft room. And then Brad calls
active in the draft room.
Dan is always in her ear telling her like what they're thinking because she's not in on the meetings, but like Brad calls the kid when they draft him, then Dan talks to him, and then Sheila's the one that gets the last word with them. Like I love her because I hated Wade and Martha Fords for so long.
Yeah.
Or it was Martha.
Martha.
William Clayford.
William Clayford.
Not
Yeah.
Wayne. I'm thinking Bruce Wayne from the Batman comics.
They're close, but they're not the same.
It's real similar,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, there's plenty of other people, Chris Spielman included, who are doing a lot to make this team a success. That's the credit that I'll give them. So
A6 was saying that, hey, it sounded like Dan was going to kick the field goal, but Sewell and Goff kind of looked dejected and like, man, I thought we want to go for it. And he's like, all right, then let's go for it. So apparently that's what was told to Richard Sherman after the game by Goff. But then from what I understand, I've heard, I've read some things that said, no, that's actually not true. So I'm not really sure if what it is. But I mean, if you watch that again and they show the video of Dan on the sidelines next to Goff, Goff does look dejected. And then you can see kind of Campbell do one of these things and then sends the guys on. So I don't know. I mean, it seems like it could be true. But what I don't want is I don't want our players talking coaches into things because they're in the heat of the moment. I want the coaches to be strategically just making these decisions and doing it less emotional and more mental. Like more, all right, this is the strategy. This is why we're going to do it, and have that be most of that decision making, not a, oh man, I totally think I can get it, coach. Let's put the game on the line, and have that be the bulk of the reason.
I know that Ben Johnson considers Goff a coach on the field, and there's been a lot of talk about the fact that like Goff knows this offense basically as well as Ben Johnson, and I have no reason to disagree with that. I will say, however, that like that decision needs to be Dan Campbell's. Like, it doesn't matter if it's another coach. It doesn't matter if Sheila calls down from the booth or the players come to him begging. Like he needs to be the one that says, this is what I think is the right move for this team in this spot. And I don't know what was said, but if Dan Campbell wasn't the one, if Dan Campbell was talked into going for it there, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So it's not that
I can understand it.
Well, I can understand him respecting. Well, okay.
Yeah, it could be both. It could be like,
both.
All right,
I'm
going to kick a field goal. I'm right on the edge here. I'm 51-49 in favor of kicking field goal. And then, Goff, Sewell kind of, like, oh man, we should totally go for it. I could see that swaying it to the other side. Say, all right, I was on the fence anyway. Let's go for it. Like I can kind of see that if that was kind of how it happened. But
so to me, the thing that when I hear stuff like this, the thing I ask myself is what seems more real? And Dan Campbell wanting to go for it in that spot seems way more real than him being like, no, let's kick the field goal.
Yeah,
and then
have to be talked into aggression.
Rats, I wish we'd go for it, coach. Like
I wish we were more aggressive, Dan.
Right, like the players have a different perspective than the coaches, and vice versa. And Dan respecting. First of all, there's only ever one player that should be able to talk to the coach in that spot, and that's Jared Goff. But ultimately, that has to be, I'm going to give you my opinion. Now you go make a decision. Like it shouldn't be like, oh, I think we should go for it. Well, I was dead set on going for the field goal, but okay, Jared, like
right.
That ultimately, I don't like the decision not coming from Dan Campbell. Like he needs to be the one to basically, if he thinks that's, I'll answer this in a second. Ultimately, he's the one that's responsible for these games. Like we can sit here and say Jared Goff threw a pick or Jared Goff fumbled the ball or, the defense didn't play very well or something, this person got hurt or whatever. And like, okay, neat. But like Dan Campbell's the leader of the team. So he needs to be the one that ultimately owns responsibility for these decisions.
Right.
And I don't think it looks good if it's like my quarterback asked me to go for it, so I said yes. That's just my opinion. If you have a different opinion, neat. I don't want to argue about opinions, but if this same thing were to happen in the playoffs and they get it wrong, and then it was, well, my quarterback asked me, like I was talking to Jared in the timeout and he really wanted to go for it, so we went for it. I would be like, that's not going to play well.
Yeah.
So like you just got to own that shit. Okay. Moving on. Who deserves more credit for the Lions season, Holmes or Campbell? It's 50-50 because Holmes builds the roster and Campbell coaches it. And I know they have a back and forth, but there is no way I'm ever going to pick anything other than 50-50 on this question.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, if I was going to pick somebody, I would say Campbell and not Holmes. And the only reason I would say that is because I think Campbell has a ton of input and can help sway Holmes in one way or another with whether it's draft choices or what we're looking for, yada, yada. But I don't think Holmes has much sway in the way that the team is coached and the schemes and the, those kind of things. So if I had to pick one, I'd pick Campbell. But I agree. It's probably a 50-50. One builds it, one coaches it, and but it is still a collaborative on the building side too. So that's why I would give the edge to Campbell if I had to pick one.
To me, these two guys, more than any other GM coaching pair in the entire NFL, are completely linked together.
Yeah,
like everything that they do seems like, now we see a lot more of Dan. Like Dan is giving press conferences, and you see his speech in the locker room every week, and like he's on the sideline 17 weeks out of the year or whatever, and you see Brad a lot more in like the off-season meetings and leading up to the draft and that kind of stuff. And yeah, there's a little bit of the stuff like he's on the sidelines for this game, or now he's at this college like checking out the recruits, or like he also gave a press conference or something like that. But like Campbell gets more screen time because of the nature of his job. But this is the most collaborative union of coach and GM in the entire NFL. And I cannot think of one that was been more collaborative in my time following roster construction.
Yeah.
So
I would agree.
To me, I mean, there are certain, so like, let's use the Packers here for an example. The Packers don't have a traditional GM in the way that Brad Holmes operates the team. It's because of their ownership, and so they have like an elected board or whatever, and then like one person is elected the person that runs the board, and that's their de facto GM, or however they fucking run it. I don't care. But like LaFleur is the face of that organization, and like his coaching, I think that he's a very good coach. And I think that he is going to lose to Dan Campbell 9 out of 10 times with most teams, because ultimately Matt LaFleur is more conservative, and like the kind of aggression that you see from Dan Campbell, even outside of this one play that we discussed, Campbell is going to push the margins of victory closer to what the Lions need to do in order to win than Matt LaFleur is willing to do. And I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. Like, do you not trust analytics? Do you trust your gut? Like, are you just naturally like worried that if it doesn't work out, you're going to fail from some kind of internal discussion that you've had inside the organization? Is that just who you are as a person? I don't know.
Right.
But like, I think it is played out that like Matt LaFleur is simply, well, I don't want to call him like conservative or afraid, but like he is not as aggressive as Dan Campbell, who is.
Yeah.
So like,
I call it anecdotal analytics.
Sure.
Right? It's the stuff that I have watched that I've known to be true, right? The way that we should be, right? We have to be conservative. If we go for it, the risk is too high without even taking a look at the data behind it. So I kind of look at it as more of an anecdotal analytics, and that's really just the experiences that they remember and what is quote unquote true in this situation. So a lot of coaches are that way. What has historically worked.
Right. If the Lions clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC, I think Dan Campbell is the runaway coach of the year winner.
Even though he had a really good team and you were expected to do well.
These awards go to people who win a lot. They don't. So like people, okay, so like here's the the example.
Jared Goff can be
Joe Burrow's not going to win the MVP.
Yeah.
And the reason is that his team has 5 wins.
Yeah.
Now maybe they have 7 wins or 8 wins by the end of the season, but he's not winning the MVP award. If he wins the MVP award, it's just not going to happen, because the logic that the NFL seems to adhere to is you're picking the best whatevers from the best teams. And that has to be the most valuable, because those things are winning more. So even if you have a great performance all season, which he hasn't had for all of the season, they started off 0-4 and he was terrible. But like, he has played well recently and put himself in the MVP discussion. Joe Burrow's team is still not good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's going to be the common denominator on these end of season awards. So he's great. And his team sucks. So
it's unfortunate.
You know, I'm never gonna say flowery shit about teams from Ohio, but like, he's great, and there's no doubt about it. But he's not going to be MVP, because that's not how shit works in the NFL. I would be really surprised.
Well, it's the same reason why Saquon Barkley won't be MVP either, because he's not a quarterback.
Correct.
Right? I mean, if any non-quarterback was going to get it, it would have been Cooper Kupp when he won the Triple Crown and damn near set all-time records for all 3 of those categories, and he still didn't get it. So you know that it's a quarterback exclusive at this point.
Hang on,
I don't think there's any denying it.
A6 is trying to fuck with me a little bit here. That's fine. I know who A6 is. Let's see. What are the NFL MVP odds?
By the way, the same analyst, I can't think of his name because I don't really like him anyway, that called Goff a civilian.
Nick Wright
just got done talking about how he might end up being MVP because of the success. And I mean, he's playing well, right? But I'm not sure he's necessarily the best player in the NFL, or even the most valuable person on our team. But it's a quarterback stat, or it's a quarterback award at this point, and we, assuming we finish strong, will be the number 1 team in the NFL. So I think there's potential for it.
Nick Wright was recently a guest on a podcast that I listen to called Check the Mic, with 2 guys who used to be on PFF. They're now with 33rd Team. And they interviewed him for like an hour and a half, and he basically was like, all that shit that we do is just for drama.
Yeah.
Like, that is just content creation.
Eyeballs.
It is showmanship to get eyes on the product. You know, and so like, he didn't get too far into the weeds with that shit, but like, when Nick Wright says things like LeBron James is no good, at the height of like LeBron James being an unbelievable player like 10 years ago, it's for eyeballs. Like, when Nick Wright is talking, like, he's talking about Jared Goff because Jared Goff's team is winning and Jared Goff is playing well. But like, Nick Wright is an idiot. And like, I think that anybody that follows that kind of drama is content, create drama idea is not worth listening to. It's the number 1 reason why I don't watch anything from ESPN anymore. It's the number 1 reason why I went out and looked for anybody that wanted to talk intelligently about football, and that's how I got to PFF.
Yeah.
So I just cannot do it, because it is absolute bullshit. And I still think that Jared Goff will finish. I think he'll finish number 2 in the MVP voting, and I think that Josh Allen will win it.
Yeah.
So,
as Brian said, Josh Allen won it the other night.
he might have.
He did not win the game, but he did not win the game.
There's still time to fuck it up, but
there's
still time to fuck it up. But I think that Josh Allen is probably your MVP this year, which I was really hoping Lamar would get it, but
he got it last year.
He did get it last year.
He can hang his hat on that.
Yeah.
So before we pop into the Week 15 preview, where we go up against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, who just lost a really tight barn burner of a game. He had 3 passing touchdowns and 3 rushing touchdowns and lost. Mm-hmm. It was a fun game to watch. If you were a Rams fan, it was probably one of those heart attacks waiting to happen kind of games. But that's who we're up against next week. But before we do that, let's talk about what the playoffs might look like. So I like using ESPN's playoff predictor, playoff machine, and you can go through in each week and pick the teams that you think are going to win, right? So, and then you can start moving things around, like, oh, what if we lose this one, but the rest of this stuff happens? So it's a lot of fun. So week 15, let's do this, Drew.
Yeah.
LA against San Francisco.
I'm going to pick the Rams.
I'm going to pick the Rams. All right. Denver at home against the Colts.
Nice save. I'll take the Broncos.
The Ravens on the road in New York.
I'll take the Ravens.
The Patriots on the road in Arizona.
I'll take the Cardinals.
The Jets on the road in Jacksonville.
Jesus Christ. Like,
no, right?
What?
You're like, somebody's got to win, Drew.
What an awful matchup. So this is, I'm going to take.
Is this a Thursday night game? Because that's what Thursday nights got up until this. This year they've been stellar, but like
Amazon
the last couple of years,
that's
the
looking at that game, being like, that's our wheelhouse right there. That's who we are. Jets, Jags. I'm going to take the Jets in this one.
All right. Think Aaron Rodgers is pissed enough?
Well, and Trevor Lawrence is out. So it's Mac
yeah.
Jones. So I mean, like, I don't think that's
Buffalo in Detroit.
I'm taking Detroit.
All right. I like it. Dallas in Carolina.
I'm going to take the Panthers.
It's so crazy, but I totally agree.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay in LA against the Chargers.
I'm going to take the Chargers.
Washington in New Orleans.
Give me the Commanders.
This is going to be a really good game.
This is a huge game.
This is a huge game for us. Not only is it going to be amazing to watch, but it's huge for what happens in the NFC. So Pittsburgh in Philadelphia.
I'm taking Pittsburgh.
Wow. Pittsburgh on the road.
Yeah.
I think
they're both good teams. Like, and Pittsburgh is the one that we didn't expect to be good this year. But like, yes, it was either earlier today or yesterday. AJ Brown from the Eagles was asked, like, what do you think you guys need to work on to be a better team? And he's like, passing. You know, and so I'm just like,
his quarterback right under the bus.
Exactly what he did. And so it's I got to give it to Russell Wilson. Like, he looks like Russell Wilson, you know, right now. Like, so I just really like the way that Pittsburgh is playing, and they have a great pass rush. So yeah. I just think that if Philly's like not having a great time throwing the ball right now, and which means they're going to have to be one-dimensional and beat somebody. I mean, with Saquon Barkley, who's having an MVP caliber,
a little bit easier to be one-dimensional when you have a guy doing what he's doing.
But I'm going to take. I think that I'm going to have Pittsburgh's defense be my tiebreaker on this game. So even though it's in Philly, I'm going to take the Steelers.
All right. I think it's just a slight edge to Philly. I'm still just not a believer in Russell Wilson. But that's going to be such a good matchup. So, ASIC says the Philadelphia meltdown is beginning.
He lost 10 games in a row last year. I mean, it was hard to
it was brutal. So Michael Wharton, to be one of our subs, would not like to hear that. He's an Eagles fan.
I'm sorry, Mike. I'm not that.
So the Cincinnati Bengals in Tennessee.
This is so clearly the Bengals.
Yeah, it should be. But they found a way to lose all season where you're like, how did that happen? Green Bay in Seattle.
I really want to take the Seahawks.
They're 8-5. They're playing well.
I really want to take the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks.
I think Green Bay's good. I don't think Green Bay's going to lose 2 in a row. So I would go Green Bay, but we can always play with these later if we want to see, like, all right, what ifs, right? So Seahawks there. Kansas City over the Browns.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, the Bears and the Vikings.
The Bears are a mess.
Yeah, yes, they are. The Dolphins and the Texans.
I will take the Dolphins in this game.
Even though Texans are at home.
Yes.
All right. And then Atlanta visiting the Raiders.
This one's almost as bad as Jets Jags. Atlanta's a little bit better. I think that I could see this going anyway. Kirk Cousins his touchdown interception ratio over the last 2 weeks is 0-8.
Yeah, it's been
0
bad.
touchdowns, 8 picks. If he has another 4 turnover game, there's no way the Falcons can win. But you can't have another 4 turnover game, can you? Can you? So I'll take the Falcons.
You're going to take the Falcons. All right. All right, so let's move on to week 16. Denver going to LA Chargers. It's going to be a tight game.
I'm going to give that to the Broncos.
Give that to Broncos. All right. The Cleveland Browns, the Battle of Ohio, Cleveland in Cincinnati.
I'm going to give that to the Bengals. I know I say they're shit, but like this is such an easy schedule.
Yeah. Houston visiting Kansas City.
Chiefs.
Tennessee visiting Indianapolis.
Colts.
Another great matchup. Division rivals. The Steelers in Baltimore.
I think the Steelers win.
In Baltimore. All right.
I don't know what it is.
They've shocked people on the road like that. Their division on the road. So
Baltimore has played down to their level of competition several times this year and lost games they should have easily won. And I just don't think that Pittsburgh has played that way. So
yeah.
Detroit,
Buffalo over. Yeah, right. Another good one.
This could be an important game. I think Minnesota's for real. I really think they're for real. I want Seattle to win.
All right, I think it's going to be Minnesota as well.
Okay.
Even though Seattle is 9-6 at this point, as far as including the Week 15 guests, like I still just don't believe in them. I don't know why. LA over the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets are legitimately terrible.
Yeah,
I'll give this to Las Vegas just because they're at home.
Yeah. Philadelphia, Washington. That's going to be another division just rival. Like there's so many good games these last 3 weeks, Drew.
Washington. I don't think Washington can win the division, so I think they would be fighting for seeding here. But so we picked Philadelphia to lose this week in week 15 to the Steelers, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna pick the Eagles.
Yeah, they're not gonna lose 2 in a row, right?
It seems unlikely to me.
All right, Niners in Miami to play the Fish.
I'll take the Dolphins.
The Jets in Atlanta. I'm sorry, the Giants in Atlanta.
I'll take the Falcons.
Tampa Bay in Dallas.
Give me the Bucks.
Zona over Carolina.
Yes.
And then New Orleans in Green Bay.
I'll take the Packers.
All right, week 17. Another great game. Kansas City versus Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh.
I'll take the Steelers.
All right, the Jets will get demolished by Buffalo.
You didn't. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so the Buffalo will walk over the Jets.
I'll take the Ravens.
Ravens. Oh, it's just a barn burner of a game here. Tennessee versus Jacksonville.
God, these horrible games are so hard to pick.
The good news is it's not going to matter for our playoff predictors.
I'll say Jacksonville.
All right. Seattle in Chicago.
Seattle.
Do you think Chicago's just going to lose out?
I think they are just in an absolute tailspin right now.
Yeah. Carolina in Tampa Bay.
Give me Tampa Bay.
Zona in LA.
I'll take LA.
Oh, that pops them up to the 3 seed. They're winning their division so far, but we have not gotten all the way through that. So Green Bay versus Minnesota. This is gonna be one of the biggest games that just is gonna decide
Boy,
our
Minnesota's
division in
got
the
some
NFC.
games on their schedule here.
Yes, they do.
I'm trying. I was taking a look at the Vikings roster the other day.
Mhm.
It's entirely possible that like Cam Robinson, Aaron Jones, and Sam Darnold all leave in free agency. Like those guys might get contracts.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the Vikings here.
They're at home. The tie goes the home team, right?
Yeah.
LA Chargers at visiting New England.
I'll take the Chargers.
The Vegas, New Orleans.
I'll take the Saints.
Denver versus Cincy.
I'll take the Broncos.
Cowboys should get wiped clean by the Eagles, correct?
Yeah, that's where I'm.
Atlanta. Yep, Commanders.
I'll take the Dolphins again.
Indy versus the Giants.
Lions
in San Francisco. We are 15-1. I love it. All right, week 18. This is it. Houston in Tennessee.
Houston.
Jacksonville in Indy.
Colts.
Carolina in Atlanta.
Falcons.
Kansas City in Denver.
Broncos.
Home team, yeah. New Orleans in Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay.
The Chargers.
Chargers.
Seattle in LA.
You're going to get upset. I'm going to take the
Seattle.
Seahawks.
So if you watch LA, Seattle, like this is going to be a decides the division.
Yep.
Which is probably why I would lean toward LA because I just don't see that. But
I understand.
That's a lot of wins that LAS put together, and that's also tough to do. So,
yep.
Washington visiting Dallas.
Washington.
Buffalo. I'm not even going to ask.
Philly. Dolphins.
Fish.
Lions. Ravens. Packers. Steelers. Cardinals.
All right. All of that happened. We're winning out. We're 16-1 with this.
May not happen.
Right.
I just can't see how we wouldn't be the favorite in any of the games.
I think the hardest game is going to be Buffalo. If we lose that one, it is. But if Josh Allen has a game like he did on Sunday,
we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah. So I could see that one, and the other one I could potentially see is Minnesota. And if that's the case, Minnesota pops into the first seed. So I don't want to see any of that stuff happen. What other scenarios do we want to take a peek at?
Well, I want to talk about these playoff matchups real quick in the NFC.
Okay.
This is exactly the playoff matchup I want.
Green Bay, Philadelphia. Let them beat the shit out of each other. And I think Green Bay matches up well against Philly.
That's what I want. Is that I want these two to play each other in the playoffs at some point. I don't care when it is. I want these two to play in the playoffs. It's because of all the teams that can make it, with the slight exception of the Rams. I think if the Rams played the Eagles, the Rams have the ability to just outscore the Eagles.
Yeah.
Even though I think the Eagles are the better team. So I need Philadelphia to play I don't give a shit about playing the best teams.
Right.
In the playoffs. I care about winning the fucking Super Bowl.
Right.
So I want our biggest opponents to have the worst time of it. So this is exactly what I want.
Well, do they reseed after the first round?
I think so.
Okay. So if Philly does get by them, um, will we then play? Well, I guess so. So say Philly wins there. Who are you thinking between Seattle and Washington?
I think ugh,
I mean, I'm leaning toward Washington.
I'm just trying to. I think I would give the. I think that I would give the nod to Seattle here, probably
Okay.
because it's in Seattle, and like I don't know what their defense looks like lately, but at one point during the season, like their defense was unbelievable, and like I think that the key to the entire game is Jaden Daniels, and like
They
if
are the
he's
15th overall graded defense.
what about their pass
So right,
defense
pass
coverage?
defense. Let me zoom in here. Coverage. They are the sixth best coverage grade.
Okay, so like I don't know that Washington has a ton of offensive weapons. So like I think that Seattle's probably the best group here to take away the weapons they do have. Like I like Witherspoon on Terry McLaurin,
Yep.
that kind of stuff, and like I do think that Seattle has a good passing game. They have a couple of good running backs. Their offensive line's a little suspect. But and Gino is a veteran, and so this is a rookie going on the road in a playoff game. He's been excellent. At one point in the year, he was in the MVP discussion. But I think that the pendulum swings too far for Jaden Daniels in his first playoff game
Yeah.
to pick him to win it on the road in Seattle, a notoriously difficult place
Yep.
to play. I think that Minnesota would crush Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And so then it would be what? It would be Seattle versus Detroit.
No, it would be Detroit versus Minnesota because they're the fifth seed.
So I don't like that.
Philadelphia versus Seattle.
I don't
It's really hard to beat the same team 3 times in one season.
Sure. I guess there's probably no good matchups in the second round of the playoffs.
Honestly, I think we would walk all over Washington. I think we match up really well against them.
So, to be honest, the teams that I would want to
Seattle.
play the most in this playoff grouping would be Washington or Tampa Bay in round 2. Like, unfortunately, given these matchups, I don't think that they're getting to round 2. So your choice is Green Bay, Philly, Minnesota, and the team that I might want to play the most out of those teams is Green Bay. I just think that the Lions have the Packers numbers. I think that they're in their head. Xavier McKinney has mouthed off twice in the media before the Lions games and been embarrassed twice. Tucker Kraft.
How well did that work for you, Xavier?
Xavier McKinney's great, but he's not made a difference in the games. And so Tucker Kraft talked shit before this game. And I think that the Packers understand that the Lions fundamentally are a better team than they are right now. And that's why they talk shit. Is because, when you're better than somebody, there's no reason to talk shit. None. Because you're better. And if you just go out there and play like you can, you're going to win. And that's why Detroit doesn't mouth off in the media. But the Packers do, and then they look like idiots because they talked a bunch of trash and then didn't back it up. And you look like a fool when you do that. And so I think that maybe it's better that we do play the Packers in the playoffs.
So I made a couple adjustments. Number one, I picked LA over Seattle here. And then I picked Seattle over Minnesota. So Seattle pops from the 3rd seed to the 7th seed. LA takes that, and Green Bay is the odd man out.
So then I like Philly over Seattle. I like Los Angeles over Washington. And I still like Minnesota to beat Tampa Bay.
Brian M. says, "It's not the year that I'm afraid of the Packers a third time. I feel like we won't overlook or unprepare."
I have to agree with Brian here. Like,
Yeah.
I just think that the Packers. What do the Packers do that beats the Lions? Where do the Packers outplay the Lions on any aspect?
Wide
of their
receiver
football
versus
team?
cornerbacks.
But that hasn't proved to be a problem.
Right. I mean, that's literally the only thing that I think when you talk about matchups of like us versus them in different things, that's the only thing I think that their receiving group is better than our cornerback group. But that's not enough. Like one position battle is not enough to do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm starting to get to levels of confidence in the Lions that like are setting me up to be absolutely crushed. You know, like I just don't see, because I mean, no team has really been able to do it this year. You know, there doesn't seem like there is an area of the Lions on either offense and defense that a team can exploit that is going to cost us the game.
Right.
I
Usually
disagree.
we're beating ourselves. Oh, on the love capable of getting hot.
Yes,
He hasn't shown it yet.
I did. So that is the reason why I disagree. Is that like he was playing as well as any quarterback in the NFL the first time the Lions played the Packers. Like, what was it, a month ago? And
more than that, but yeah,
he threw. I think Brian just made a pretty good point too.
Not much more than that.
He threw a pick that Kirby Joseph either returned for a touchdown or got it down inside the 5 or something like that. Brian's agree. Nice. That should be a thing for you guys. Brian's agree. I like that. It's like attorneys general, but Brian's agree. That kind of a thing.
Sounds like a new podcast.
He wasn't able. Oh man. You know how they talk about coaching trees? We have a podcast tree. That'd be sweet. I mean, we only have 135 followers, but I mean, like, we're taking over.
It could happen.
I don't think that Jordan Love playing at his best. He has not played at his best against the Lions. And I think it's not because of Jordan Love. I think it's what the Detroit Lions have done to limit what makes him good. And like, I don't believe the only reason I don't want to play Philadelphia is because their offensive line is as good as ours. And I think that, you know, if they're able to exploit that advantage, that's the thing that can hurt the Lions. And I just don't think that any of these other teams have offensive lines that can win them games. Like Detroit's offensive line is such an unbelievable weapon.
Yeah. All right, so I tweaked it a little bit just to get us out of the first seed. Not that I don't want us there. I've got us losing to Buffalo and then losing in Week 18 to Minnesota.
Okay.
And that flips us out into the 5th seed. All the other stuff kind of stayed the same with LA there. Green Bay ended up popping in because I think Minnesota, because I had them beating Seattle there. So that pulled them out of the playoffs, allows Green Bay to sneak in. LA wins the NFC West. We are at a 5th seed in this bizarre scenario where the Minnesota Vikings are 15-2 and winning the NFC. But crazier things have happened. What are our thoughts here?
So I guess ESPN would know, but like I do think it's crazy that the Vikings have to win out and we have to drop 2 games.
Yeah.
In the last 4 in order to make this a reality, and I think they have the more difficult schedule.
I think we own the tiebreaker against.
We do because we beat them already.
So yeah. Well, even if they beat us in Week 18, I believe we have the tiebreaker.
Yeah,
I think is division wins.
It goes to the second tiebreaker. So
yeah. I don't see this as much harder, right? I think we have an easy first round. I think if LA beats Washington and Philadelphia beats Green Bay, we're still playing Minnesota the second round. The only thing this does is it makes us play 1 extra game.
But it makes us play 2 road games.
Correct. Yeah,
And
because we'll
that's
have to play in Tampa Bay, which I think we win. We'll play in Minnesota, which I think we're going to be actually on the road basically the whole time,
correct.
which is a real
So
bummer.
that's why the Lions need to secure the number one seed in the playoffs, is not because it's a bye, which is beneficial, but because you get to play at home. You get to play at home so long as you're playing in the playoffs. And like, I don't know if there's a more hostile place to play in the NFL than the Detroit Lions home field advantage.
So
It's loud.
decibel 117 decibels
Yeah.
at one point in the game in the fourth quarter there.
It's loud. It's hostile. And like, I just think that matters. I don't know how people could. It would be fascinating to try and quantify home field advantage, but I guarantee you, Detroit is number one on that list. And like, I just don't. Well, first of all, I just don't think there's any teams in the NFL that are better than the Lions are playing right now. And like, they have 11 players on defense that are hurt. And not
we're
to
getting
mention
some
this,
back, which is even better.
like Anzalone is going to be back, probably by week 18.
DJ Reader's going to be coming back. Like these are difference makers for us. Reader, Pascal, Onwuzurike, all those guys are difference makers for us.
I don't know, who does Minnesota have in the last 4 weeks?
So Minnesota at
Chicago.
home against Chicago, that should be an easy win.
Seattle.
They are in Seattle, which can be a challenge. At home against Green Bay. So again, that could be another one that flips it. That puts us ahead if Green Bay. We're rooting for Green Bay there, right? So even if we both end up at 14-3, we still get bumped up to the first seed and home field. So this is a huge game for the NFC North.
So they have to play the Seahawks and the NFC North in the last month.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So I just don't think. I just don't. I mean, like, ultimately, I think this whole season comes down to, unfortunately, to say this, but like, I think, the way I should see it is, the way our playoff seeding comes down to is you need to beat the Vikings in the last game of the season, and you might not have to. Yeah. Like, if the Vikings have their best case scenario up until week 18, you just have to beat the Vikings at home, and you've already beaten the Vikings on the road. It was only by 2 points, but you did beat them.
There is a scenario. Oh, no, so I guess not. So 14-3. There's a scenario where Philadelphia gets the first seed.
There's no way Detroit's losing 3 games.
Oh, right.
Of the last 4.
That's the only way to do it, right? Because we lose to Buffalo, we would have to lose to Minnesota, the Niners on the road, then Minnesota in week 18. Like, I just don't see all 3 of those being losses. One, maybe 2, like if we have some bad luck or whatever, but 3 would be a meltdown of epic proportions, to be honest.
I just don't think that we can lose to the Bears and the Niners. I guess it's possible, but I just don't think that's likely to happen. So let's talk about the Buffalo game.
Okay.
Now I'm going to start, and I'm going to say something, and I'm not doing this to take a shot. I feel so much better about beating Buffalo after watching them lose to the Rams.
Yeah.
So what that tells me is that so my fear of Buffalo is that Josh Allen takes over the game and basically can't be stopped. That is what happened against the Rams, and they beat him. And what this tells me is that Buffalo's defense is just not nearly as good as I thought it was. So it's that running grade for Josh Allen is the thing that I fear.
Yeah.
He's down against the Rams. They didn't have Keon Coleman, who was their first round wide receiver pick, and they didn't have Dalton Kincaid, and they still managed to play that well. Like, so in my opinion, the Lions need to be able to guard Khalil Shakir, their slot receiver, who was clearly the number one option for Josh Allen. And
Mari Cooper. Make sure
I,
Amari Cooper doesn't get behind us.
I am worried. I am worried less about Amari Cooper than I am about Khalil Shakir. Shakir is more of the Amon-Ra St. Brown role for them. He is
Gotcha.
the
Yeah.
chain mover, get wide open kind of guy. And the Lions run man. The Lions run man so much that they don't even think about running zone. So, like, I think that he is going to find ways to get open because this matchup is him on Amik Robertson. So, and like, I like Amik and I know he'll fight, but like, I just think that this guy is too fast, too quick. And Josh is going to look for him all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want to put Campbell on Kincaid, you want to put Carlton Davis on Amari Cooper and like Terry and Arnold on Keon Coleman. Like, I get it. Like, I do think that Detroit is going to have. Oh, by the way, I saw this fun stat today. Detroit has been called for 17 pass interference penalties this season, most in the NFL. There have been one defensive pass interference called on Lions receivers. Now, the way that I
called for Detroit.
And let's be real, those are penalties that were accepted. So if it was like pass interference, you know, or whatever, like, and they declined it, that doesn't count. But like the way
most
that
of the time you're not, because that's usually yards down the field and an automatic first. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know what scenario it is, but like, it's not. You have to accept.
That's when they catch it,
right?
And you get the extra roll.
So my response to that stat was, of course, you can't interfere with Detroit wide receivers. They're too open.
No. So that's not what it is. We have been called for 17 pass interference calls. Our defenders are.
Yep.
On our side, our opponents have only been called one time for defensive pass interference.
Because our wide receivers are wide open and they can't.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
No, I was where you were.
Yeah.
I got you.
So I believe Minnesota is the leader in the most yards gained by defensive pass interference, with something like 278 total yards accepted on DPI calls. We were 32nd. We have 5 yards of defensive pass interference of 5 yards of offense from DPI calls the entire season. And I'm just like, well, I guess there's a few reasons for that. Number one, our guys are so, like you said, they're so wide open. And B, we don't take the big shots downfield where you get that 40-yarder where they're like, you pulled down. Buffalo and the refs, man, they got some calls that were pretty sketchy at the end of that game for some pass interference calls. But like, you don't get those shots, you don't get those yards if you're not taking those shots downfield. And the only time we take those shots downfield is when it's a broken play and our guys are wide open. So we don't get those opportunities to get those extra free yards. We're doing the very short things where a lot of times it's still in that like right off the line physical contact type of thing. So we're just not putting ourselves in position to get those calls. But we haven't needed to. That's just not our offense.
Yeah. It's, you know what? Can you do something for me here? Can you stay on PFF, but go to the NFL section and bring up Buffalo like you were going to look at their roster? Yeah, you might have to get out of premium stats. No, they're at the top. It's alphabetical. I'm like, just click on just click on Buffalo. Not the team reports. Click on the team.
The actual. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, this isn't what I wanted. Okay, so never mind. But like, there is a way. Maybe I can do it, and then I can stop trying to direct you. That's not my strength. But like, there is a way. Let me see if I can do it here. I have to share my screen. But like, let's see, opponent.
So do you want this? Like the grades for their team?
No, I don't want the grades. Here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen, Mike.
All right, so I will remove that.
I will present. This is riveting podcast drama.
High end production value.
Yeah. Okay. And then I want to add this to the stage. All right, hang on. And then I need to do what I always yell at you to do, which is to make this bigger.
Zoom in.
First of all, I saw something the other day that said DeMar Hamlin was an all-pro, and I was like, not over either one of our safeties. The fuck is that? So, like,
Well, he
this
is in the AFC, so
well, all-pro doesn't matter.
I guess all pro. Yeah, I'm thinking Pro Bowl.
Yeah. All right. So this is the Lions offense against the Bills defense. I want to do this more when we talk about the games to kind of see like the matchups that we were talking about.
Yeah.
So first of all, they have one really good defensive lineman, and that's Greg Russo, one of their ends. So if he's going to play on the right side, I'm happy letting Penei Sewell take that matchup all game.
And yeah, Penei Sewell has taken more sacks than given up. So
I'll take that matchup. Even if he gets one, I'm happy to take that matchup. And then, like, I think that Zeitler and Ragnow create space for like Montgomery and Gibbs, and that's what you do. And then I mean, like, Christian Benford, their corner, is also good. And like I hope that he's lined up on Tim Patrick all game. And if I don't know if he follows a guy around or if he just stays on one side of the field, but if he stays on one side of the field, then I'm putting Tim Patrick over there. And when we run, I'll run to that side and I'll throw to the other side. Because like I would just line up like this and be like, okay, who are you covering? Who are you covering? Let me see if I can change this to their nickel. Like this doesn't look any better for them. You know, like where are you going to get a matchup on Detroit's offense? Right? I just don't think that this defense has a way to slow down the offense. Maybe slow it down, but not stop it. So then let me see if I can get this flipped around here. So, Lions defense. Buffalo. Oh, it did it. Hooray.
I knew you could do it, Drew.
Thanks. I only had to click one button. I'm really good at this. Oh, I'd have to make it bigger.
You might not even need me anymore.
No, I need you. Is that big enough?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So like Detroit has lined up Terry and Arnold against whatever guy is across from him all year and been like, here you go, kid, you're on an island. I saw like halfway through the season, I saw some stat that like he has taken more one-on-one man reps against an opposing team's number one wide receiver than like any corner, especially any corner in this class, but like any corner all year. Like it was crazy. Like they are just like, here you go, deep end, we're all done. You know, and so it's like assuming that they have if they have all their guys, right? Keon Coleman, Shakir, Amari Cooper, I think James Cook is a problem out of the backfield, and Dalton Kincaid. Like let me see if I can bump this down here a little bit so we can see some of the grades on the offensive line. But like, I think that like Zadarius Smith and Aleem McNeil are probably going to give this offensive line problems. And like, to be honest, like Muhammad has been good enough when he's been on the field to create pressure. You get on Wuzurike back, you get Pascal back. Now you can shuffle those guys in and out a little bit more. You know, I just don't know. I just don't know where I see I guess the only really exploitable matchup that I see for Buffalo is if they can get Shakir on a linebacker.
Yeah, in the slot.
Yeah.
And even then, Campbell's improved dramatically in that.
He cannot stay with Khalil Shakir. Like, that is a loss for us.
That's when you need a safety to help cover, right?
Yeah. So, like, if I go Detroit's nickel defense, right? I'm less good at this. I need to go down one more spot. Let's do it like that. You know, if you do it like this, then you're matching Robertson up against Shakir, and I like that better. But I don't know
It's
that
still
it's
a mismatch, but it's
still a
not as
mismatch.
bad.
Like
Right.
he is a mismatch regardless, you know. So I do think that they're going to target him a bunch. So then I think that the question is like, if you do have a rep where you take Shakir away, he goes through his initial progressions and he doesn't see something that he likes, he's just going to take off. And then so you're going to have to, and I don't know that they have done this, but like with like a quarterback like Caleb Williams or Jordan Love in the division, but like you're going to have to spy him. You need to dedicate a linebacker to being like, well, this bitch can take off and run. And the problem that I have with playing so much man defense is that when they snap the ball, all of our cornerbacks turn their back. Our linebackers turn their backs to the play. Everyone turns their backs. And if he can be 5-10 yards down the field before someone turns their head to look back at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. It's usually from someone from the sidelines yelling, he's running.
Right. So I think that the other massive thing that Detroit has to really work on for this game is they need to have their defensive line be able to hold a pocket. So like Detroit wants their two interior defensive line players to hold the point of attack. They want whoever's playing Pascal's position to set the edge. And then that is basically like a wall. And then Zadarius Smith comes in from the other side, or the Aiden Hutchinson role comes in from the other side and like delivers pressure, tries to get the sack and fuck with the play. Right. So like, I am wondering where the pressure comes from in this game. Like, is Pat O'Connor capable of beating McGowan? Like, is it McGowan or McGovern? Somebody like that. Is Edwards going to be able to keep Aleem McNeil, on his side of the line of scrimmage? Because, like, I do think that they'll key on the run to try and stop the run. That's just who they are. And then I think that it's like, can you, in obvious passing situations, affect Josh Allen? And to me, I think the number one thing that I'm going to be looking for in this set is like, who's going to have the better third down conversion rate? Because I think whoever has the better third down conversion rate is probably winning this game. And they're going to have to account for a quarterback who runs more than any quarterback in the NFL. So this is unlike. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to steal the stage here and switch over to mine real quick, because what I wanted to highlight is LA kind of showed a little bit of a blueprint too, right? Now, so Stafford, he played lights out, made some really big time throws. Puka made some pretty just amazing catches. But like, if you look at the strong players, even outside of Stafford and Puka, you got Alaric Jackson, you got Rob Havenstein, who hasn't played this well all season, but like he played well. Their offensive line set everything up and gave Stafford time to pick the defense apart, and I think that is our strength. Is that so? I think if our tackles, our guards, like Dotson played well, and Steve Avila, 65.9 is not a slouch. That's pretty decent. So like, their offensive line was 65.2 or better. Their wide receivers balled out. Their quarterback was on target. And I think we can do all those things, right? We have the best offensive line in football. Even though their running backs, like Blake Corum was okay. Kyron Williams was okay. I think our ability to run gives us so much more opportunity to dominate this game offensively. And I think if LA can do that almost exclusively by the pass, I think we can do that with a wide, very variable offense where you just can't pick, oh, I'm going to stop the run. Okay, well then St. Brown will beat you. Well, I'm going to stop St. Brown. Okay, well, JMO will hit a long pass and we'll run up the gut or whatever. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to stop us if our offensive line outplays their defensive line. And if the Rams could do it, ours can. The Rams' offensive line has not been good all year, so it gives me hope.
So where I'm going to push back on this is that the Rams passing game and the Lions passing games are just not at all similar.
Correct.
So like I watched this game, and for both teams, the game seemed to be about each quarterback could basically drive the ball downfield at will on the other team.
Big plays, right?
Yep. Now the Lions can give up some big plays because they play man so much. And I don't know how much man the Rams run, but I would imagine it's more zone. Given who
their secondary is worse than, I mean, it's a bad secondary. So I think zone helps even the playing field a little bit.
So I think that Detroit's line can give Goff the time the way that Matthew Stafford doesn't need much time at all. He's notoriously one of the fastest releases in the NFL. But like,
well, you had 12 years of not having the kind of offensive line that gives you time. So
sure. Yeah. My thing is that like I don't think that Goff can replicate the type of game that Stafford has. So like, can Goff have enough time to enact the Lions passing game? Yes, but the Lions passing game is not the kind of explosive play offense that the Rams is.
Yep.
What does give me hope, to your point, is that Buffalo's defense did not seem to be able to do anything to stop them.
Yeah.
And I do think that I think that the Rams are better at what the Rams are good at than Detroit is.
Yep.
But I think Detroit is a more well-rounded offense.
I agree. I think that to your point of the Rams in our offense being different, they're more big play focused. I don't know how many big time throws Stafford had this. I don't know if it shows. Come on, scroll. Oh, I hate this thing sometimes. So he had 4 big time throws. It's really tough to see. There we go. 4 big time, like that's more than Goff had in the last 10 weeks combined, right? Like that's just not our offense, but it is the Rams offense. The good news is because that's not our offense, we are a methodical, slow, chew the clock up with runs and easy high percentage passes. We're not going to give Josh Allen the ability to get 6 scoring drives like LA did. LA would go down there and score real quick, and Buffalo's like, all right, we'll do the same thing, right? And LA got the punt return touchdown as well, which helped and turned out to be a big piece of that game. But like, I think our ability to keep Josh Allen off the field is going to be as big as the big plays that LA does. I think that's going to be a big piece to how we beat them, is just keeping that son of a bitch off the field.
I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. The reason why is I'm starting to really think that like time of possession, it just doesn't, well, so in the game against the Packers, the Lions had the ball for 36 minutes compared to the Packers 23. So that should matter, right? Like that should provide an advantage. And yet the score's the same down to the last drive in the fourth quarter. And that's the thing that I think that it's not going to have an impact in the Bills game, because if the Bills have the ball for the same amount of time that the Packers did, and they score, and those are scoring drives, then it just doesn't matter, right? So like the point I guess I'm trying to make here is that like I do think that it's important for Detroit to try and possess the ball as much as possible, to control the overall flow of the game as much as possible. But like Detroit has been very efficient in the red zone on offense, and they need to hold Buffalo to field goals and not touchdowns in their red zone. Yeah. And so like, can the defense continue to do that? Like I have way more faith that our offense is going to be efficient against Buffalo's defense, having watched the Rams game, but like, I don't know what our defense can do to really slow down Josh Allen. So maybe the best thing that you can do is basically to say, we're just going to give you less time, and so, and you just hope that that provides some kind of advantage. But I just don't have a ton of faith in it.
You need one big play to flip the script. Like, you just need to hold serve. And if you slow it down, you have fewer serves to hold. But if you have one big play, one big drive killer, make them punt one extra time and take that time off the clock, those are the kind of things strategically that could be the difference. If we get 3 scoring drives, in the first half, just because we've taken so much time, and they only got 2, awesome, right? So they've only got, and then if we come back out in the second half and get the ball, and we get 3 to their 3, we're still up by a scoring drive. Like, so I think we have the ability to slow it down. And if our defense can come up with one big play, we haven't had an interception in several games. I think it was like 4 or 5 games since the last time we had an interception. If I recall correctly, I could be wrong. But if we can get a big pick and some sort of game changer, I think that'll be that thing that flips the switch.
Yeah, I think winning the turnover battle would be excellent. And I thought
Josh Allen is a cocaine moose. Moose gonna eat. Just got to make them work extra hard for them, and they start slowing down.
I don't know what any of that means. The thing about Josh Allen, maybe I need to go to ESPN for this, as much as I'm loath to say that, is that this year he's not throwing picks. In almost every year that he has been in the NFL, Josh Allen has thrown interceptions.
Yep.
And this year, for whatever reason, he's not doing it. Good job, Josh Allen. But like, he has always been the kind of guy that was like, his big time throws are balancing out his interceptions. Like, he'll throw a pick, but he makes a big play. So this year he's thrown for 23 touchdowns and 5 picks. So that's great. That's great. And if I have him up on PFF, and like, I want to look at his.
So he is tied for the NFL lead in big time throws with, of course, everybody would have guessed, Sam Darnold.
Why can I not
at 29 big time throws? His turnover worthy plays is at 13, which is a plus 16.
Yeah.
So it's basically a 2-to-1, which in the past it was like better than 1-to-1, but not a ton better. So that's a big deal for him.
Yeah. So to me, the keys that I think the keys of the Lions are always going to try and do, not what I think they're going to do, but what I think what we've seen the Lions do, is that they are going to try and take away the running game. And that includes Josh Allen. And so I think that they're going to try and be stout up front, corral Josh Allen, and at least try and slow him down. And this might be the kind of like Lions taking down the Buffalo, not to use that pun on purpose, kind of a scenario, but like one guy jumps on and then the rest of the pack has to get there to take him down. Like, you might just be somebody that's like, if you get a hand on Josh Allen, you do not let go and you wait for the cavalry.
Right.
And it's just like, and then stuff outside of that, you just have to kind of live with, and then on offense, like, I just think that Sonic and Knuckles are just probably going to do the shit that they do. And like, I'm going to call it, like, I'll bet Gibbs rips off like a 70-yarder against this.
You just get behind the line and just be untouched.
I think that he'll do something. Like, I think that they will try and stop the run, and they will like put like 8 in the box. And then somebody like Brock Wright is going to have a seal off block, and then Gibbs is going to make one dude miss, and it's off to the races, and no one's catching him.
Yeah.
So let's do a score prediction. So I didn't have the score right last week, but I had the margin of victory dead on balls accurate. So
I don't remember what I picked last week.
You
I do
picked a
believe I
10-point
picked.
win.
I picked a 10-point win.
Yeah, you said we were going to win by, I think it was like 31-21 or something like that.
God, I thought it was closer than that. I thought it was. I thought I
No,
picked a shootout.
You had
So
no. I was nervous, and you were not nervous at all.
yeah, I was thinking
said,
it was gonna be a shootout though. I thought I picked a higher scoring game.
I said 24-21, and it turned out to be 34-31. So,
all right, all right. By the way, before we get into score predictions, big shout out to Jared Goff. He is the first the first Detroit Lions quarterback to have 3 consecutive 25 touchdown seasons.
hooray!
Even Stafford didn't do as many touchdowns as he's thrown. He never had 3 straight seasons of 25.
Put him in Canton.
So, all right. So, prediction: Detroit versus Buffalo. What are we thinking, Drew?
Well, I don't know what the line is on the game, so let's do that real quick. I've got the line per PFF as 2.5 in favor of Detroit. So
it's about right. It's gonna be a good game.
I'm gonna say 35-31 Lions.
Wow. 35-31. Winning 12 games in a row is really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting some defenders back.
You're not going to do this. You're not going to do this. Don't be that guy.
I don't. I think this is the game that stops our streak.
Oh my God.
And pisses us off.
They don't need
I
to
think
be.
it's. I think it's going to. I think it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be a wake up call of sorts. That we can't just beat anybody because we think we can. Like we actually have to do it. I mean, it's so
they
weird
just
because
11
like
games in a row. You think they're taking people for granted?
I think they can, but man, Dan Campbell just usually doesn't let that happen.
I don't see how you get to that train of thought, man.
I'm really
on
12 days in a row is really fucking hard. So
is 11 and 10 and 9 and 8 and 6.
I know. Each time you're less and less likely to get that next game in a row. No, right?
Dude. That's a math fallacy.
That is a math thing.
That is the hot hand fallacy. So like that's the idea that like the more like so like in basketball, like the more 3-pointers you make, like you do a heat check. And it's like you're convinced that you can't miss the next one, but what you still have the same odds. You know, every time, like you have the same odds every time you flip a coin. Like your odds don't change because
I get that.
You made a bunch of heads in a row.
It's this game, and this is the game that's going to decide it, right? So, I don't want to be a pessimist, but
you haven't been. I don't understand. Like.
I know.
I don't understand why. Like
it's so hard.
So it's like the last 2 weeks against the Bears and the Packers. I was like, no, I'm so nervous because of all the injuries. Like I don't know how it's going to work out. And then you were like, no problem, we got this. And then it's like, oh, looks like the guys that we brought in are like doing a good job and like playing well. And you're like, no, I don't know, it's over a wreck. You know, like I don't understand why Buffalo's better than those two teams.
Buffalo is better than Green Bay, and we squeaked out with a walk-off field goal. So,
Hatters, you're never nervous. Stop it.
I think I'm more worried about Josh Allen and what he can do for us or do against us than I was any of the other quarterbacks that we faced. Right?
Because he's the best one of any quarterback that we faced.
Right. And it's going to be. We have not faced anybody of his caliber. There's
no one to face in the NFL of his caliber.
I'm just saying, like we haven't faced like Lamar Jackson or Joe Burrow. I mean, granted they're different elite, right? But like, fuck, I don't know.
This is why this game for me is the litmus test.
It is. You know what? The best part is it's a litmus test for them too, right?
They have to play the Chiefs every year.
I understand, but I think this right now, I think this game at this point in the season is their litmus test.
Oh, I disagree, man. I think that when you live and die in the NFC the way that, like, I mean, like, remember, this team has not been to a Super Bowl, like, quote unquote, in the Mahomes era, right? Like, and they're in the
Right.
Josh Allen era, and like they're consistently like the second, like they are the Colts. They are to the Chiefs as the Colts were to the Patriots during
Yeah.
that dynasty run, right? So I mean, like, they are a great team that happens to have a better team in their conference that they have to play all the time. Like, I don't think the Bills are looking at Detroit and being like, "Oh my God, we really need to test ourselves." I think they're saying like, "Detroit's good, and we're gonna have to play this game real well because they're not going to give us any margin back." That kind of thing. But like,
Yeah.
I don't think that they're being like, "Oh my God," I mean, like the Lions, like, this is not a young team. Their coach isn't new. Their quarterback's not new. Like, this is a veteran team that has done well. And like, I know I'm making the case against the shit that I was saying here a second ago,
Right.
but like, I still think that whether or not you're playing Josh Allen or whatever, like, Aaron Glenn has coached really well this year. Like, Ben Johnson is on the top of his game. Like, Dan Campbell is aggressive, but has dialed it back mostly, I think, because we have a kicker that's worth shit now, and so it's
Right.
like, I think that Buffalo's great. I just don't know. No team has showed me how you attack the Lions and win all year.
So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If Josh Allen was on the Green Bay Packers and not Jordan Love, do we win that game?
If Josh Allen is on the Green Bay Packers,
Because you're like, no team has showed how do you face Detroit and win.
sure.
And I agree with that. But like, we damn near lost to Green Bay. And I think Buffalo is a full step better than Green Bay. So a walk-off field goal for the win. Goff throws one touchdown and Allen throws a pick. I think it'll be a turnover. Whoever wins the turnover battle will win. Right?
I think that's okay, so let's examine that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I'm like, I don't know, because Green Bay, they almost beat us, and they had a far less dangerous quarterback than we're facing. That's why I'm like leaning toward Buffalo,
I think the rest
31-30 kind of leaning.
I think the rest of the Packers are better than the rest of the Bills, though. That's my thing.
Yeah.
I think Green Bay's defense is pretty good. And I haven't watched Buffalo outside of the one game where they got fucking cooked, the entire game, or whatever. But so let's look at the turnover battle.
Yeah. Because you need to convince me. Right now I'm leaning 31-30 Buffalo, but convince me where
you just
I'm
saw
going
Hatter
to
score and reversed it.
Oh, I did. Actually, I didn't. I've had it sitting in the chat, ready to hit the OK button and send for a while here, but I don't want to send it. I don't want that to be put out as the permanent in the universe Mike's prediction. So I'm like,
let's take a
talk
look.
Me down, Drew. Talk me down.
Well, let me take a look at Goff here just real quick. Jared Goff has thrown 25 touchdowns and 10 picks. Josh has thrown 23 touchdowns and 5 picks. And I promise you that Josh Allen has 3 to 4 times the number of big time plays than Jared Goff has. So, Lions by a million. Good job, Hatters. Let the numbers and logic drive your decision making. That's what we want to see on this podcast.
So yes, Josh Allen has 29 big time plays to Jared Goff's 10, so 3x. 13 turnover worthy plays for Allen to 14 of Goff. So Goff's just a little bit more. And then Allen has half the number of interceptions.
Right. So I don't think that Josh Allen is going to throw a quote unquote bad ball.
Right.
I think he's going to be aggressive, and because that's where the big time plays come from. But like, I'm not counting Hail Marys at the end of the half that get picked off, or tip balls.
Right.
So, like, I don't think Josh Allen is just going to not see a linebacker drop into the passing lane, right? If the Lions get an interception, it's going to be like a tipped ball that just hangs up in the air for like 2 seconds and like someone runs underneath it. Fine, that counts. Like, I would be thrilled with that. But like, I think that the more likely scenario for like generating a turnover from Josh Allen would be something like the pocket collapses around him and somebody comes up, like Zadarius Smith comes up from behind and strips it or something. And then the Lions happen to get it. James Cook has fumbled the ball. Like, James Cook is not exactly a pillar of ball security. I don't have the numbers. But like, I feel like I have seen way too many Sports Center highlights in James Cook's career to be like, oh, he let that one loose. Detroit's not great at generating turnovers. So if Aiden was in the game, that might be different. So the thing that I think is most likely to create a turnover is a strip sack or a fumble from their running back. But like, we do have Kirby and Branch back there. I mean, that has to be accounted for. I mean, Kirby's tied for the league in interceptions. Well, he was going into this week. I don't know if he still is, but I think that the more likely turnover comes from somebody failing to convert fourth down. So,
well,
can the Lions...
if that's the case, it's more likely us, right? Because we're going to be probably going for it on fourth down more than them.
Well, so here's the thing, is that I think that like just as Detroit wants to be efficient in the red zone and score touchdowns, I think that the Bills, because I think the Lions are still leading the league in scoring, aren't they, or second? So I think the Bills are going to have to say, we're going to have to keep pace with Detroit. And so, like, if that means that they would have to go for it on 4th and 3 from their 45 or something, you know, at near the end of the second quarter or the end of the third quarter or something like that, I think those types of situations are on the table in this matchup where they otherwise wouldn't be.
Mm-hmm.
So how conservative is Buffalo going to be? Because then once again, if they choose to be more conservative than Detroit and not match their aggressiveness, then I think Campbell's aggressiveness is going to put more situations back into play for Detroit than Buffalo's going to have chances at.
Yep. So to your point, yes, Detroit is still the highest scoring offense. Buffalo is number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. They are the second highest scoring offense. Turnovers, our offense has 1, 3, 4, 5, 10. We have 12 turnovers on offense total, but that's I believe passing and running, fumbles and interceptions. They have 7. So
the Lions
their
had
offense
5 turnover. So wait.
Yes.
We
had a 5 turnover game against Houston. Remember, 5 picks.
So that's the number of times the offense has turned the ball over.
Correct. We have turned the ball over 12 times total. Mm-hmm. They've only turned the ball over 7 times. Now, obviously, 5 of those were picks, right? So there were 2 fumbles. Mm-hmm. So they're winning they're doing less frequent offensive turnovers than we are in general. So defense, they've got 1, 4, 6, 7, 9, 10, 14, 15, 19, 21, 24 defensive turnovers. And we've got 3, 5, 10, 11, 15, 18, 19, 20. So we're pretty close on that. Again, we had a 5 turnover game.
Dallas was.
They had a 4 turnover game.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're the only ones with a skewed, spike in the turnovers. So defensively, they're really consistent. They've had a turnover every single game until the LA game when there was no sacks by either team and no turnovers by either team. And we've that was the fumble. We've struggled on the turnover side of things, on the defensive side of the ball. can't count on those. There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of bounces that go for or against you, but I don't know. I don't know.
So here's my last
Yeah.
point that I'll make, and
Yeah.
then we'll let it go. The Bills are a better team than the Rams, right? And they went to LA, and all the things that we talked about, LA beat them by 2 points. Well,
Yep.
they're in the same situation now, and they have to go to Detroit, who is a better team. And I think that's the difference. Like, I just think that Detroit's a better team. Detroit is at home. Detroit is coming off of additional rest and prep time. I mean, it's not a cross country trip, Buffalo to Detroit, but like they have to
Right.
travel.
Yep.
You know, like it's the most difficult place to play in the NFL. I just think that I'm gonna you know I'm thinking 35-31. You know, and it's probably gonna be a crazy. You're picking the Lions too?
You've convinced me. I changed it from 31-30 Buffalo to 31-30 Lions.
Okay, all right. I think that's correct. So I'm happy with you right now.
Yeah.
But I do think it's
You know me,
interesting.
I'm usually the eternal optimist, seeing positive when there probably shouldn't be. And here I am just like, I don't know.
Well, you and I have not been on the same page like for the last 3 weeks. So like
Yeah, that's true.
And I mean like I know we gave up 31 against the Packers, you know, or whatever, but like I didn't think that the players on defense played badly. You know, like
No, I mean even like on the grade side of things, if we go back over to the game defense, like now granted Turner only had 17 snaps, but like
I'll bet he gets
he
more
played
snaps.
stellar those 17 snaps. Jack Campbell played great. Miles Adams in his 19, because they're spreading the love around the guys that have only been on the team for a couple weeks, right? So we gave Green Bay a free
With the
7
pick.
practically. Yeah, well that's true. That's true, but there's nothing to say that we won't do something similar to that against Buffalo, whether it's a fourth down failure or another turnover or whatever too. So, and for that matter, Buffalo gave LA a free 7 with the blocked field goal. Like they would have won that game had they not field goal but punt.
Yeah, not a repeatable
Yeah.
type of situation, right? Like that's obviously something that's like, oh, you might see that however many games, but like you don't expect to see a blocked punt return for it.
So I will say, like after the Green Bay game, knowing Buffalo is coming up, I was not feeling good about it. Just because I thought that Buffalo is a better team than Green Bay, and they have a far more dangerous quarterback. And what Green Bay did to us, I was like, I think we're going to be just over, like, not quite there. But what LA did to them gave me that hope back of like, okay, well, you know, maybe if LA can do it, why the hell can't we? Kind of thing. So it's been back and forth in my brain. So
yeah, I mean, the thing that I've been struggling with all year is like I look at something happen, and I'm like, why did that thing happen? And then I think like, okay, is that thing repeatable? And I basically all year I've been fighting my fear of what happens when something goes wrong for Detroit. Like they played, was it the Chicago game so badly that I was shocked that the Bears didn't win it. I think it was the Bears game. I remember sitting there watching that game. My mom is watching a lot of football now, so my mom and I were watching the game. And she was like, what is going on? I thought you said these guys were like really good. And I was like, they have been almost all year. And I was super pissed.
yeah, it was a 23-20 squeaker.
Yeah. You know, and so I mean, I love games like the Jacksonville game where you just blow out somebody and it's just not, I mean, like they're just not
52-6.
Yeah. I mean, and so anyways, I've been struggling with my fear because now the Lions are good and they have something to play for. Right. And they're
expectations,
like, you know, and that kind of stuff. And so I've been fighting back, and like the thing that's gotten me through it is it's like, yes, but the guys they brought in have played well, and they played well immediately, and now they have 10 days rest, more practice, guys are coming back, like all of the things that you would think would, like, you've held, like you put your finger in the hole, right? The sinking ship, like you plug the hole, and now things are getting better, and like there's fewer holes to plug, and now you still get to look at more players who can, like, where can we gain a mismatch? Where do we have an advantage? And I still think that in the Tampa Bay game, the Lions beat themselves. Like, Tampa didn't fuck it up, but like the Lions beat themselves, I think, mostly.
Yeah. We could be undefeated right now.
Right. And like, I do think Buffalo's probably the best team that we've played all season going into it.
That's what has me worried. But I'm scared, Drew.
They have lost more games than we've lost. I mean, like, and Josh Allen is who Josh Allen is. And the other thing that I think of is that, like, I mean, I know Patrick Mahomes is great, but like, I don't know that the team that Patrick Mahomes has had around him has been to the level of like what this Detroit roster is, top to bottom.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen can't seem to beat Patrick Mahomes and get his team to the Super Bowl. And so, like, I think that I need to put more faith, quote unquote, in the fact that Detroit's team overall, floor to ceiling, is I mean, we talked about this years ago.
The best in the NFL.
Right. Like, we talked, like, when we were so concerned about Jared Goff, and we were like, can the Lions raise the floor so high that Jared Goff basically can't play bad? Because that was the knock on Jared Goff, was like, he only plays as well as the team around him. And they have done it.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't think that was possible, and I think that they've done it now. And now I need to, like, believe that that's going to, like, achieve a result.
So do I buy a Super Bowl ticket?
I think you should, dude. I think that you should. I mean, if you want to go to the Super Bowl, which sucks for me because now I don't have anybody to watch the Super Bowl. I watch it with my dad. But like, I was going to watch it at your place. But like, I honestly think that they're going to go 16-1 and host playoff games. And I think that if they do that, and the only loss of the year was to Tampa Bay at home and them beating themselves in week 2, then I think that you should. I think that's a good investment. I think you should do it.
Yeah, man,
I really
money.
Do. And it's not my money, so I'm really happy to like greenlight you.
Yeah, yeah. It's so here's the deal. I told my wife before we got married, if the Lions ever make the Super Bowl, I don't care if I have to sell furniture and we sit on the floor for a year. Like, I'm gonna find my way to that game. And last year, NFC Championship game, it's halftime, and I'm thinking about, oh my God, it's gonna happen. It's finally gonna happen. I had tickets in my Ticketmaster cart, and after fees, it was like $12.5, and I'm just like, oh my God, this is absurdly expensive. But like, I'm really big into like experiences that you can't have again, right? So, like, I went to when they retired Steve Eiserman's jersey at the Joe, and Nick Lidstrom's, and when they inevitably do the right thing and they retire Fedorov's jersey, I'm going to be at that game as well, because he's my guy. But like, the Super Bowl is one of those things that, like, I mean, if the Chicago Cubs taught us anything, it may never happen. So if you get there, make it count. So didn't end up buying the tickets, but my wife said, all right, I'll give you the green light to do it now, because it's going to get nothing but more expensive as it gets closer to the Super Bowl. A, not that I believe in jinxing, but I kind of don't want to jinx it. B, if I buy them now and for whatever reason we lose in, say, like the NFC Championship game, and I now have 2 weeks to sell $8,500 tickets, if I, for whatever reason, can't sell those, this is my one shot to get permission from my wife to go to the Super Bowl. And if I have to go to the Super Bowl and not watch the fucking Lions, right, watch some other team because I didn't find a buyer, I'm going to be
Facebook
so
exists. You'll find a buyer. Like,
Ugh.
there are 1,000 Detroit Lion fan groups on Facebook. If you just say that you have Super Bowl tickets and the Lions are playing in the Super Bowl,
No. If the Lions don't make it and I have to sell it, like if the Lions go there, cool. I've got the ticket. I'm going. But if we lose in the,
if you have Super Bowl tickets, someone will buy them.
that would be my hope. But my fear is I'm going to get stuck with them, and I'm going to have to go to a non-Lion Super Bowl because I already bought the tickets.
There's no such thing as who fucking cares? Like, if you have Super Bowl tickets, go to the Super Bowl and have a good time. Like, you just get to.
I get one shot at this, and I want to watch the Lions at the Super Bowl.
I promise you, there's no such thing as jinxes. There's no such thing as curses.
Yeah.
Those things just do not exist.
No, and I know that, but it's mostly about like, all right, if I buy a ticket and we don't make it, what happens if I can't sell it? Now I spent $8,500 or more to go watch a non-Lions guy or a non-Lions game.
Have you ever heard of somebody who couldn't? I mean, like, you get to lower the price.
It's true. I could take a loss, but it wouldn't be a full loss.
You're not going to lose money. Like,
probably not.
It's the internet, dude. I mean, like, it doesn't matter
Somebody
if you live close to, like, if I don't know, like, name a team, like,
Philly, right?
Yeah, Philly or the Pittsburgh. If one of them makes the Super Bowl, they have fans who have access to the internet. You're good.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's just not like, oh, I have to sell it in my neighborhood to like my neighbor's kid.
Oh, no. I'm not worried about that. 'Cause, there's going to be fans of the other teams, right? So it's a big financial commitment, and I'm nervous about it, Drew. So nervous.
Well, how about this? If you don't do it, I'm going to tease you about it for the rest of your fucking life. How's that?
Yeah. When we get there and I have to pay like 50% more because I didn't buy it early.
Stop it, Brian. That's ridiculous. He just said he would sell the tickets. But like,
all right,
it's just money. You can always make more money.
That's true. I guess that's true. All right. Well, it is almost 2.5 hours in, so let's call it for tonight. We will be back next Tuesday after hopefully yet another Victory Tuesday.
We should just name it Victory Tuesday.
Building the Pride, Victory Tuesday.
Yeah, like what day do you guys like? All right, guys, we're every Victory Tuesday at 7:00 Eastern.
Yeah.
2025.
Brian, yeah. All right, we could potentially do 2025 mock next week.
Well, hang up. How about this, Mike? If you need to sign off, cool. Hatters, if you want to hang around, I'll run a 2025 mock with you.
Long haul podcaster. Yeah, right on. Yeah, for anybody that's driving from Detroit to Chicago,
right.
We got you almost home, baby.
That's right.
I'm gonna bounce out. So if you want to do a 2025 mock with Hatters and whoever wants to hang out, awesome. Everybody else, eventually like, comment, subscribe if you already haven't, and I will see you guys next Tuesday. Peace. I'm out of here.
See you, Mike.
See ya.
All right, now that we've cut the dead weight, let's talk about this mock draft.
Hey, I heard that.
You son of a bitch!
I heard that, you son of a bitch. All right, I love you guys.
You can hear me. Okay, I don't know if he's really gone. How do I kick it? I can see him. I can see him lurking in the lobby. Actually, leave. I can see you, dude. How do I kick you out? I don't think that I can. There, he's gone. All right, fine. Now we're really doing it. That son of a bitch. Why is he my friend? Okay, guys, let me get this set up. Now that we're not being stalked. How many rounds are we doing? 7? I gotta present screen. That's the one I want. That's the one I want. I don't want to grow up. I just want a Minecraft. There's a million things for Jordan. Okay, enter draft. let's see. I really wish that I could watch myself and control the screen at the same time. You don't have much time? Okay, we'll just do 4. Okay. I'm not going to be able to see you guys while I'm doing this, so don't yell at me. Here, we'll kick up the speed. Okay. Let's see. You don't have much time. Seemed like you had a lot of time when you were throwing it in the chat there, buddy. Okay, so first of all, there's no way that Shedeur Sanders is here. There's just no way. He's probably the first or second pick in the draft. Let's see. Tyleek Williams is going to be a 3-tech in the NFL. I don't think they're in the market for that. One thing that I have been doing, and please don't yell at me when I say this, I've been mocking a lot of corners to the Lions early. And the reason that I have been doing that is that Vildor and Dorsey are both free agents. And I don't think that Mosley's going to make the team again. So, like, you do have an argument for cornerback, and I know this sounds crazy, but like cornerback 5 and 6, you have an option here to just basically load the team up with young cornerback talent on like rookie contracts. And like, I do think that there's a more immediate need at edge, but like, I think it's the guys that are available at edge, like Overton, that kind of thing, fit the Lions' need for the guy that's across from Aiden Hutchinson as opposed to the guy that like is Aiden Hutchinson. I don't think the Lions want, I mean, if they had another Aiden Hutchinson, like a clone that you could draft at this point at number 32, like, I think that they would probably draft that guy, but like, I don't think that's the way that the defense runs. They want that guy. So anyways, I think that we'll take LT Overton here. He's the guy that I've been mocking a lot to them. He's good against the pass. He's good against the rush. Like, he has a good win rate. He's good. I mean, he is 6'5", 280, and that's in college. So the guy that I like most for the Lions, and like I could actually see them trading up for, is where is he? I've missed him. Nick Skirton right here from Texas A&M. I could see him being a guy that they target depending on what they feel like his intangibles are. I quite like Skirton in the like across from Aiden Hutchinson role. So in a lot of these mock drafts, like Siobhan Revel from Eastern Carolina has ended up because he's hurt at the Lions spot, and I've been liking taking him. So I think that it's pretty likely that Kevin Zeitler is going to retire now. Okay, and then so there's 2 guys here that I think you could plug and play. One is Tyler Booker. He is more of a pass blocking guard than he is a run blocking guard, but he is basically equally good at both zone and gap, which is what the Lions run both schemes. So you can teach him how to do this, and he should be equally good at it. He is 6'5", 325, so he is in the mold of a Lions height, weight, speed type of offensive lineman. And then this is Jonah Savanaia. Once again, more of a pass blocker than a run blocker. However, he is better at zone than he is at gap, and this disparity worries me. However, he is 6'5", 336, which I think that the Lions would also look at. So between these 2 guys, I think that I would err on the side of Tyler Booker. Graham Glasgow has not played exceptionally well this season, but I don't think that you can get rid of him because he can play tackle, guard, and center. So he is effectively your swing position offensive lineman, and he's a starter. So if Zeitler retires, you have Christian Mahogany, but he was a 6th-round pick, and I don't know that there's a 6th-round pick in existence that can keep me from saying, like, this other guy's right here, we can take it and invest at this spot. And I just don't think that Detroit can afford Detroit can't afford to let the offensive line get bad. So I have kind of a weird pick right here. Is this the guy that I'm thinking it is? Yeah. Okay. So, I would if Quinn Ewers was right here, I would draft Quinn Ewers. I don't think that Brad Holmes would draft him. I would also draft Harold Perkins as like, and I think he will be an exceptional special teamer, and like you will find a role for him on your team. I'm going to draft Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. I don't think he will be here in the third round, but he is a great player in my opinion. Great versus man, excellent contested catch, does not drop the ball. He's just a good wide receiver. Like I know he plays in the Big 12 or whatever, but he is 6'4", 215. So that is Tim Patrick range. So my thoughts here would be the Lions re-sign Tim Patrick, 2-3-year deal, something like that. And then they draft a guy to be the eventual Tim Patrick, right? So this guy fits the height, weight, speed. He's really good. I don't think that he will be here in the third round. I think that he is a second round pick. I will take him here. Well, this isn't even the third round. This is the fourth round. So I don't think there's any chance that he's on the board at this point. But once again, like we're what, 6 months, 5 months from the draft. So a lot of this is going to change. So another couple things that I've been thinking about since we got such a long time between picks is that like I have been doing a lot of mocks where I'm intentionally trading up, and I'm trading up pretty aggressively. And so I think that they're like, the reason I'm doing that is because Brad has demonstrated in the past that he's willing to trade up, and they only had last year, they only had 14 players they had first round grades on. So they're super picky about who they are going to take with their first round pick. And if they think that they can get value for a player and it's quote unquote one of their guys, I think that Brad has no qualms about moving up. I'm going to do something crazy, and I'm going to take Cade Klubnik here. A couple of reasons. He's really good. But this is the reason right here. His pressure grade, 77.1, that is the highest grade against pressure that I have seen amongst this quarterback group. He is not very big, I don't believe. 6'2", 210, so he's not huge. He's smaller than all the other quarterbacks that they currently have on their roster, but like his grade against pressure is something that I don't think that you can teach. And so I think that I'm more than happy to take him as a 6th round player. I also wonder how much time they're going to give Hendon Hooker. Like, are they having conversations with him about like, oh, you get to be the backup for your entire career, or whatever, or like, especially on a second contract. I'm going to take Malachi Moore here from Bama. Detroit has indicated a couple of times that they will take players from Bama. Terrion Arnold, James Williams, and those Jahmyr Gibbs technically went to Bama. Brandon Joseph, I think that Brandon Joseph is not on the team next year. His contract's up. Lauren Strickland is the only other safety on the roster currently signed through next season. So you need depth at safety. So this is a 6 foot, 200 pound safety who I believe has played G. He's 23. So he's played 4 years in college. All of these grades are good. He is typically a box safety, but he will play deep. He can do both. The Lions love players with versatility. I think this is a pick that I would love to have here. 4-year contract for a very good player. Once again, I don't think a guy like this. Well, so like Hatters, I do agree. Like that would be where I'm going with Hendon Hooker. Like, can you honestly tell me that Hendon Hooker, not you personally, I guess, but like, I'm going to take this kid, Kobe Bryant. I mean, I don't think he'll be here. 6'1", 175. So he is light, but he's got the height. And I know the NFL does seem to be trending toward lighter players. Coverage grade, great. Super good in run defense. The Lions are going to love that. Man coverage, they run most of that. That's a good grade. He can also play zone. He's been getting better his collegiate career. It is at Kansas. I don't particularly love that, but like this seems like a really good time to pick a cornerback 6, cornerback 5 that needs to put on 15 pounds. So here's our mock. They hate it. But I also don't think that the Lions' needs are guard, center, and edge. I think the Lions' needs are becoming to be something like edge, tight end, safety, and like you can make an argument for almost any position on the entire team because the Lions have no weaknesses across their roster. Like you're talking about like you can never have enough CBs. I agree with that point. We took Hooker in the 3rd round. I don't think that you could get a 2nd round pick for Hooker, and then I also don't believe that the Lions would want to get rid of him because he is a valuable backup. So I don't know to me that means that you just leave him on the roster, I guess. But like if I'm a team who is looking to address the quarterback position, like, do you want a rookie that you have to sit and go through the growing pains on? Or would you be willing to give up a day 2 pick for a guy who is no longer hurt, height, weight, speed was great, was a fringe 1st round pick before he got hurt and dropped his draft stock and has played on a winning team behind a good quarterback in the NFL? Like, I think that that's someone that someone should look at. I just don't think that anybody in the NFL actually does it. So I'll just run through my picks here. LT Overton, that's your new, I think he probably sits behind like Davenport, Pascal, that group for at least a year while he gets his body right. They basically the Lions love to like kind of pseudo redshirt rookies. Tyler Booker is just like, you're just going to have to keep drafting linemen. The Lions are carrying 10 linemen this year. Is there a way that they can either get that down to 9 or 8 and then have a spot for some like rookies and backup and like developmental players? Like, do we need Colby Sorsdal on this team anymore? Jaden Higgins, I think, is Tim Patrick Jr. You sign Tim Patrick to a 2-year deal. You build in his replacement on the roster. Now that position group just continues to get stronger. Cade Klubnik, I'm drafting him because I don't know where else the Lions. Oh, I did draft 3 Bama players. Oh my God. I don't know where else the Lions can go with the roster. Like, I don't think that there's a tight end I liked anywhere at these picks more than the guys I took. And like, I just think that the Lions should invest in promising quarterbacks like they did already. Like, here's another guy. He might not be as big as you want, but like he doesn't crack under pressure. That is a trait that is hard to find in quarterbacks in the NFL. So can you do something like have Hendon Hooker sit for 2 years and then like move him for more draft capital? Maybe you don't need to recoup a 3rd. Maybe you take a 4th and a 5th. Like, it's not as much as you invested in him, but like you're getting multiple picks back and you're freeing up a roster spot or whatever. And then off the back of that, you draft a kid like this and you just start that process over. And like, you become like Goff is going to play for 2, 3 or 4 more years on this team. So like, can you get, is Hooker going to stick around and have his shot at being like the heir to Goff? Or does he want a chance to go into the NFL and do that? I don't know. Malachi Moore, just straight safety depth. Kobe Bryant, straight cornerback depth. And then, this is only 6 guys. And so what I've been looking at is trying to predict who the Lions are going to keep. They've got all these new faces. And like, I honestly think the Lions can go into this offseason and you're basically saying like, we're going to use premium resources to upgrade the depth on the team to an even greater degree. Like, I think that the Lions can have an opportunity to be like 3 or 4 players deep at almost every position on their roster, and most of those guys are going to be on first-year deals. So, they sign David Montgomery, they draft Jahmyr Gibbs, they sign Alex Anzalone, they draft Campbell. They they trade for Carlton Davis, they sign Amik Robertson. The same year, they draft Arnold, they draft Rakestraw. So, like, that's 4 new guys. Like, and I think I just don't know who they're letting go. But I think it's like the 48th, 49th, and 50th player off the roster. And then I think they go into next season, and I think they'll re-sign their own guys. Some of them they just don't see as part of the long-term plan end up going into free agency. We're not going to get any comp pick generation off of their contracts they sign. You go into your draft and you draft a bunch of people, and you bring in some UDFAs, and you basically bring back everybody that's on your practice squad and on injured reserve, and you're at 90 guys. And you just shake that up and you see where it comes out, and you run. I mean, like, where else? What else are they going to do? So I just don't know. And so this draft is me trying to say, this is just them drafting for depth. Like, I don't think that if this is the draft, the first round pick doesn't play much. The second round pick doesn't play much. The third round pick doesn't play much. This is your third stringer. This is your third wide receiver, your third safety, your fourth safety. This is your fifth or sixth corner. And it's like, and you're not tied to anybody after round 3. You're probably not even tied. Lions probably aren't even tied to like their round 3 guys. So what do you do? And like, I just don't think that they're going to let guys like Jameson Williams walk in free agency. Brian Branch, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, like all the Lions draft picks are getting re-signed because who is busted? So like, there's no spots. Like, the Lions don't have to draft for starters anymore. It's crazy. Anyways, guys, Hatters, I hope you're safe and you got to where you needed to be. Brian, thanks for sticking with us. There's probably one other person in here. It's probably Mike, still lurking around like a weirdo. Anyways, that's the draft for tonight. Hope you guys are safe. We will see you back here next Tuesday, 7 Eastern. Bring a friend. All right. Talk to you guys later. Peace.